Chapter 2692. The Trial of the God of War? Piercing demonic sound. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. It was obvious now that if he wanted to obtain the inheritance of the God of War, he would have to withstand the demonic sound from the Sound Mountain. If he could withstand it, he would become the second God of War. If he couldn't, he would turn into a pile of dirt. This trial was simple and pure, but it was also cruel. In fact, this was not much different from the inheritance of the real demon god. It was to select candidates who matched the power of the demon god. Those who met the requirements would pass, and those who didn't would have to die. In fact, Xiaoping had a rough understanding of the power of the Sound Mountain's demonic sound tide. It was divided into two types. One was a physical attack. The power of the sound was condensed into a physical form and was indestructible. The other was a soul attack. Many sages weren't afraid of physical attacks at all. This was because most of them had extremely strong bodies and were even invulnerable. However, they were only afraid of soul attacks. This kind of attack penetrated the body and the void. It directly attacked the soul and ignored all defenses. If one soul defense wasn't strong enough, one would probably die. Therefore, when the demonic sound tide attacked, many sages couldn't withstand it. Their souls exploded and split into pieces. Their immortal bodies couldn't withstand it either, and they fell into eternal slumber. Even invincible sages were no exception. Interesting. What I'm least afraid of is soul attacks. Thinking of this, Xiaoping smiled. If he was an ordinary sage, he would probably be able to leave after facing such a trial. However, he was different. Disregarding everything else, the tree of world on his body alone could withstand most of the mental pressure in the universe. Back when he was still immortal, he relied on the power of the tree of world to withstand the mental attacks of countless experts. Even if the tree of world couldn't withstand it, he still had the mysterious system. With this special treasure, even the power of the demonic sound couldn't harm his soul. Therefore, he had to pass this trial. There was no reason for him to give up. Whoosh! Thinking of this, Xiaoping didn't hesitate anymore. In a flash, he stepped onto the first step of the stairs. The moment he stepped on the stair of courage, the scenery around him immediately changed. It was as if everything had turned into chaos and nothing existed anymore. He only saw a stairway to heaven appearing in front of him, continuously extending toward the top of the Sound Pattern Mountain. The surroundings were enveloped by the terrifying power of the divine prohibition, like a void cage, and there was no way to escape. Insignificant life form, you actually dared to step onto the stair of courage and used your own life as a wager. This is enough to prove your courage. Come up, cross all the stairs. I will be waiting for you at the top of the throne. With a boom, an ancient and mysterious voice rang out in the depths of Xiaoping's consciousness. It seemed to be the dignified voice of the God of War, causing people to tremble. It emitted an ancient and chaotic aura. Buzz, as the sound disappeared, the entire Sound Pattern Mountain seemed to have awakened. It was as if a mysterious beast had awakened, producing a terrifying demonic sound. In the blink of an eye, this voice seemed to be everywhere, pervasive, permeating the void. It contained a mysterious magical power, and, at the same time, it contained a terrifying, vibrating power that shattered everything. Dong, dong, dong. Waves of demonic sounds were like heavy hammers, directly penetrating all defenses. They did not conceal themselves and bombarded Xiaoping's soul fiercely. Immediately, ripples erupted in the void. What a powerful demonic sound. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. Just the demonic sound attack alone was enough to kill an ordinary ancient saint. Fortunately, his soul power far surpassed that of an ordinary ancient saint. Even an immemorial saint might not be able to compare to him. If that was not the case, just the first step would have made him dizzy from the power of the demonic sound. His soul might even have shattered, and he would have been heavily injured on the spot. However, although it was a terrifying attack, wasn't it an excellent training experience? The waves of demonic sounds transmitted from the entire Sound Pattern Mountain bombarded Xiaoping's soul like heavy hammers. It was as if there was an external help tempering his soul, removing all the impurities in his soul. Vaguely, he felt that his soul power seemed to be growing stronger bit by bit under such training, advancing toward a higher realm. This was a crisis, but it was also an opportunity at the same time. Continue up. Xiao Ping clenched his fists. With a dong, he continued up another step. Immediately, the power of the demonic sound increased by 30%, and he endured more pressure than before. Obviously, with every step he took, the power of the demonic sound became more terrifying. Putting aside the fact that Xia Ping was accepting the inheritance trial of the god of war in the core region of the Sound Pattern Mountain, the moment Xia Ping's trial began, the entire Sound Pattern Mountain awakened. Terrifying demonic sounds erupted from the depths of the mountain, forming a demonic sound tide. Whoosh! In an instant, layers of terrifying demonic sounds blasted out in all directions like a tide. Gu Rulai and the many angels, who were fighting to the death in the outer region, also felt the danger of death. They had originally planned to fight to the death, but at this moment, they all stopped at the same time. Damn it, why is it like this? Why is there a demonic sound tide so soon? The golden immemorial angel's face was very ugly. They had been in this place for billions of years. Although there seemed to be no pattern on the surface, in reality, they had managed to summarize quite a bit. First of all, if there was a demonic sound tide in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm, there would definitely be a sign. By grasping this sign, they would be able to avoid it in advance. However, at this time, they had no way of discovering any signs, which instantly shocked many angels. It seemed that the pattern of the demonic sound tide in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm, which had been in place for billions of years, seemed to have changed at this moment. In fact, the power of the demonic sound tide was even more terrifying than before. If they continued to stay in this place, they would definitely be attacked by the demonic sound, shattering their internal organs and soul. Don't care about this human. Run immediately. This demonic sound tide is simply a natural disaster. If we can't stop it, we will die. Let him go for now. When the demonic sound tide is over, we will kill him. The golden immemorial angel transmitted his divine sense to the other angels. Although he really wanted to kill this human saint, at this moment, a natural disaster was approaching. If they didn't hide, they would all die in this demonic sound tide. Moreover, they couldn't kill this human saint in a short period of time. They could only give up for now. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, these angels fled without saying a word, returning to their original lair. This lair was their refuge against the demonic sound tide. He actually ran. Chapter 2693. Sound Pattern Mountain, Steps of Courage. In the blink of an eye, 7 days and 7 nights had passed. Step by step, Xia Ping climbed upwards. In the beginning, it was relatively easy for him. However, the higher he climbed, the greater the pressure he felt. That terrifying demonic sound seeped into his soul and kept colliding with it. It was as though countless hammers were smashing against his soul, bombarding him until he felt dizzy. 5,000 steps. At this moment, he had climbed 5,000 steps. This was a rather high height. Even ordinary immemorial saints would not be able to reach such a height. At the 3,000th step, ordinary primordial sages would probably be crushed to death. And for Xia Ping to be able to reach such a height at immemorial ancient level, it had already proved that his soul power far surpassed that of ordinary immemorial saints. If this were to spread, who knew how many saints would be shocked? But even so, when he looked up, he still could not see the peak of the Sound Pattern Mountain. It was as if it was covered by layers of clouds, and he could not see where the end was. After all, the entire Sound Pattern Mountain had a total of 18,000 steps. He had only withstood 5,000 steps and had only passed 1/3 of the journey. He had not even reached half of it. He was still far from reaching the halfway point. At this moment, Xia Ping felt waves of intense pain in his soul. It was as if it was about to shatter. From the depths of his soul, an endless sense of exhaustion surged. If he could, he wanted to immediately fall to the ground and fall into a deep sleep. But from the information of the trial, he knew that if he were to really faint, the contents of the trial would not stop. He would be killed on the spot by the demonic sound power of the Sound Pattern Mountain. The invincible saint who had entered the Sound Pattern Mountain previously had his soul crushed by the demonic sound power because he could not take it anymore. He had perished within the Sound Pattern Mountain. Is this my current limit? Xiaoping felt an unprecedented sense of exhaustion as he panted heavily. This was the god of war's trial indeed. If not for the fact that he had something to rely on, he would probably have died here. This was also one of the greatest difficulties he had faced. No, am I going to break through? Suddenly, just as Xiaoping felt that his soul was about to reach its limit, a mysterious, chaotic, warm current surged from the depths of his body. Dong! Instantly, a certain bottleneck in his consciousness seemed to have been shattered. The door turned into dust with ease. Immemorial ancient realm late stage. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that he would have a breakthrough in his cultivation at this time. It was like a canal that formed when the conditions were right, and he didn't have to spend too much effort. To be honest, his cultivation state was already at the pinnacle of immemorial ancient state middle stage earlier on. He wasn't that far away from immemorial ancient state later stage either, and could break through at any moment. Furthermore, as he climbed up the steps of the Sound Pattern Mountain, he was baptized by the demonic sounds, which constantly tempered and cleansed his soul. This also caused his soul's power and essence to improve tremendously. This was a crisis, but it was also a huge opportunity. When his soul energy had almost reached its limit, his essence, energy, and spirit had also reached their peak. He had completely stimulated the potential in his body and activated the boundless life energy stored in his body. At that moment, his cultivation state broke through naturally and he leveled up to the immemorial ancient state later stage. Crash! In the blink of an eye, Xiaoping could feel that ever since he had leveled up to the immemorial ancient state later stage, it was as though the skies and the seas were boundless. His 9 great purple palaces were expanding, and expanding endlessly. The powers within his body were growing and expanding rapidly as well. In just a few breaths' time, his powers were already twice as strong as before. With his body as the center, a gigantic energy vortex was formed as the void energy from all directions surged into every single pore of his body frenziedly. They were infused into his 9 great purple palaces, nourishing every single cell in his body and causing his body to be filled with a tremendous amount of source energy. But after leveling up to the immemorial ancient state later stage, it wasn't just his powers that had increased. The most important thing was that his soul energy had received a tremendous boost as well. His initially fatigued soul was now being flooded with a tremendous amount of source energy of a universe from the depths of the void. It was as though a desert had met with the nourishment of water, causing his soul to feel refreshed. Boom! In just a single instant, Xiaoping's soul energy seemed as though it had recovered to its peak state. In fact, because he had broken through the bottleneck, his soul energy was rising continuously as well. Rising, and rising. In the end, his soul energy was raised to twice as strong as before it finally came to a stop. Furthermore, this was just the beginning. If he were to completely stabilize his powers of the immemorial ancient state later stage, his soul energy would be raised even further. This was far from the limit. In reality, the further one got into the later stages of cultivation, even if it were just a small increase in cultivation state, the increase in power would be something that one would not be able to imagine in the earlier stages. It was just like 10 trillion USD increasing by 10% and 1 trillion USD increasing by 10%. Those were 2 entirely different things. Therefore, after cultivating to the later stages, wanting to increase one's power would become increasingly difficult and slow. Boom! It wasn't just his soul energy and powers that had received an upgrade. As Xiaoping leveled up to the immemorial ancient state later stage, the Hell's golden crow cells within his body were awakening furiously as well. 10 billion cells, 20 billion cells, 50 billion cells, 100 billion cells, 200 billion cells. In the end, he had awakened a total of 500 billion Hell's golden crow cells within his body. Initially, he had awakened 2 trillion Hell's Golden Crow cells earlier on, and now he had awakened 5 trillion of them. That was a full 25% increase in his bloodline power. Even though it was just a 25% increase in his bloodline power, the amount of power that it brought to Xiaoping was practically unimaginable. This caused the bloodline power within his body to become even denser. The power of each and every single bloodline mystic skill had received a huge boost, allowing them to unleash an even more horrifying destructive power than before. It was enough for them to kill even immemorial saints. One could say that he was improving in all aspects right now. Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. As his soul energy increased, he realized that the demonic sound that was blasting down from the stairs that he was on could no longer pose a threat to him. The power of the demonic sound that should have been able to destroy his soul was able to withstand it with ease under the cover of his powerful soul, leaving him unscathed. Seems like there's no need for the world tree to make a move for the time being. Just my main body alone is enough for me to continue advancing. Xiaoping's eyes shone brightly. He had already taken this trial as a chance for him to cultivate. If he could withstand the demonic sound until the very end, his soul would definitely be tempered and improved tremendously. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not use his trump card. Chapter 2694. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Xiaoping walked up the sound pattern mountain step by step. Of course, he didn't speed up. Instead, he purposely stayed on a step for a long time so that the demonic sound's power would strengthen his soul's training. He would only leave the step after the training had no effect. As he cultivated day by day, his soul power had also improved tremendously. The toughness of his soul, in particular, was simply incomparable to before. Vaguely, his soul seemed to have been tempered into a hexagonal crystal. There were no impurities in it, and it had reached an indestructible realm. But even so, after 3 months, Xiaoping had already stepped onto the 10,000th step. At this moment, he had almost reached the limit of his soul energy. Moreover, as time passed, the effect of his soul tempering became smaller and smaller. He had improved rapidly in the beginning, but now his progress was very slow. The effect was no longer as obvious as before. However, this was to be expected. After all, it wasn't easy to improve after reaching a certain realm. It required a long time of accumulation. Most importantly, the rapid improvement of soul power wasn't particularly good for the soul. Everything had its limit. One couldn't go too far. Dong! At that instant, when Xiaoping stepped onto the 10,001st step, the power of the demonic sound suddenly increased. Compared to before, it was simply incomparable. Buzz, a unique melody of the demonic sound, permeated his sea of consciousness and vibrated back and forth. Moreover, the demonic sound wasn't as direct and fierce as before. It attacked the soul directly. Instead, it became invisible and permeated the void. It penetrated his soul directly, as if it wanted to wrap his soul up. Although the demonic sound wasn't as fierce and destructive as before, it was more terrifying, dangerous, and frightening to a certain extent. Sleep, sleep, have a good dream. In an instant, the demonic sound was transmitted. The sound was like a mother's lullaby when she was a baby. It was hypnotic and made Xiaoping fall into a deep sleep unknowingly. The power of the demonic sound easily disintegrated his soul, his will, and his resistance. It penetrated all the laws of the universe and made him fall into a deep sleep that he couldn't extricate himself from. Oh no! Xiaoping immediately became alert. He could sense how terrifying this demonic sound was. If he really fell into a deep slumber, he would probably never wake up again in this lifetime. He could feel his soul will rapidly falling into an endless abyss, sinking into darkness. The 10,001st step was not a step that could be stepped on by primordial saints. One had to be at least an invincible realm saint to be qualified to step on it. Such a demonic sound could easily suppress the soul of an invincible saint, let alone other saints. I can't take it anymore. This is my limit. Come out, World Tree. In an instant, Xiaoping knew that this was the limit of what he could do. He couldn't continue climbing with just his own soul force. He could only rely on external forces to succeed. His will immediately communicated with the world tree in the depths of his consciousness. Sensing Xiaoping's will, the world tree seemed to have awakened. In fact, even without Xiaoping's command, as long as it sensed that Xiaoping's life was in danger, it would automatically appear. After receiving Xiaoping's order, it unleashed all of its power. Rumble, all of a sudden, the projection of the world tree appeared behind Xiaoping in the depths of the void. It shook the void as if it was an existence that supported the entire universe. It was a great life that came from the beginning of chaos. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Branches and roots spread out for the world tree. They seemed to have turned into a green umbrella, forming a green world barrier that enveloped Xiaoping's entire body. In just an instant, the terrifying power of the demonic sound was blocked outside the barrier of the world tree. Dong! Dong! Countless streams of demonic sound power were unwilling to give up, and they madly bombarded the world tree's barrier like raindrops. It was as if there was a violent gale and a torrential downpour, continuously giving off rumbling sounds. However, the world tree stood tall in the void like a stabilizing force. It was unmoved. It seemed that no matter how strong the power of the demonic sound was, it couldn't shake the will of the world tree at all. The world tree has grown to such a level. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He was amazed. To be honest, he hadn't observed the growth of the world tree for a long time. Usually, he would throw the corpses of saints to the world tree to absorb as nourishment. However, with his crazy feeding, the speed of the world tree's growth was far beyond his imagination. It seemed to have grown to an unimaginable realm, and its strength seemed to be even more tyrannical than his. Through his soul perception, he could see that the world tree had grown billions of emerald green leaves, which were densely engraved with world runes and world laws. The roots of the world tree were also deeply rooted in the depths of the void. They extended and extended continuously, directly connecting to the various dimensional spaces. The countless roots of the world tree absorbed the energy of the various dimensional spaces, as if they were the soil of the world tree. Even these dimensional spaces seemed to have been completely occupied by the roots of the world tree. It was as if they were parasites in these dimensional spaces, absorbing endless energy. If the world tree devoured all the energy in these dimensional spaces, it would be able to pull all these dimensional spaces over and integrate them into its leaves, forming a small, independent world. So that's how it is. The world tree has already begun to form dimensional worlds. Xiaoping realized that the current world tree was no longer comparable to when it was still a seedling. It had now broken away from its infancy and was considered to have entered its youth phase. It had begun to possess the power of the cosmic god tree. If every leaf on its body formed an independent dimensional space, the world tree would be able to condense billions of dimensional worlds and become a true space-time dimensional lord. These dimensional spaces would even give birth to countless lives and form true independent worlds. It controlled billions of worlds and used the energy of the dimensional spaces as its soil to support the space-time of the infinite worlds. This was the true world tree. It was a universe in itself. At that moment, Xiaoping could feel the endless growth of the world tree. He could also comprehend many origin source laws of the universe from the rapid growth of the world tree. Chapter 2695. Bang, bang, bang. With the tree of world above Xiaoping's head, countless demonic sounds bombarded him from outside the stairs. They formed musical notes and solidified into demonic sounds that bombarded the barrier formed by the tree of world. These demonic sounds bombarded over like a violent storm, producing loud bangs. Each note was enough to severely injure a primordial saint and tear apart his soul. However, there was no way to penetrate the green barrier of the tree of world. The green barrier was simply impenetrable and indestructible. It completely isolated all the demonic sounds. He also felt unprecedentedly relaxed. He didn't need to block any demonic sounds at all, and let the tree of world block them all. He walked up the sound pattern mountain step by step. In just half an hour, he had climbed 5,000 steps and reached the 15,000 step. What? Xiaoping's pupils shrank. He suddenly saw an ancient saint appear on the stairs. It looked like a wolf, and its entire body was silver, emitting a faint silver light. This wolf was the famous Howling Moon Wolf of the Demon Clan. It was the royal clan of the Demon Clan. However, since this Howling Moon Wolf had also climbed to this place, it was enough to prove that it had at least advanced to the invincible saint realm. It was an existence above all saints. Unfortunately, this Howling Moon Wolf was already dead. Only its huge immortal body was left on the stairs. Its eyes were empty and had turned into nothingness. It was obvious that its soul had been completely obliterated, and only an immortal corpse was left. It's dead. Xiaoping stared at the Howling Moon Wolf that had reached the invincible realm. Even though it was already dead, its huge body was still filled with the laws of time, creation, world, and life and death. It was as if it was a world itself, a powerful existence that was independent of the universe. Just a wisp of its aura was enough to collapse the sky and shatter the world. However, such a powerful existence had actually died on the sound pattern mountain, and its soul had been completely obliterated. Therefore, one could imagine how terrifying the demonic sounds that erupted from the 15,000 steps were. Even an invincible saint could not withstand it, and his soul had been directly shattered. However, the green barrier emitted by the Tree of World was still extremely strong. It covered every corner of Xiaoping's body, and there was no sign of it being shattered by the demonic sounds. There's no treasure? Xiaoping walked up and carefully searched the corpse for a while, but he did not find any treasures on the Howling Moon Wolf's corpse. He did not even find a space ring, only an empty shell. But he didn't feel too regretful, because even this corpse of a saint who had reached the invincible realm was a huge gain. If it was swallowed by the Tree of World, it would greatly enhance the power of the Tree of World. Dong! With a thought, a root of the world tree instantly swept up the Howling Moon Wolf's corpse and pulled it back into the space of the classic of mountains and seas. Next, numerous tiny roots pierced into the depths of the Howling Moon Wolf's body, madly absorbing the undying energy within the Howling Moon Wolf's body. At the same time, the world tree grew stronger at a rate visible to the naked eye, its aura growing stronger bit by bit. However, the world tree could not quickly devour the flesh and blood energy of this corpse. It would take at least a few months. After all, this was the corpse left behind by a demigod creature. The amount of cosmic origin energy contained in it was unimaginable. Even the origin of a great thousand world could not compare to it. However, obtaining this demigod-level corpse was already a huge gain. 16,000 stair. Xiaoping continued to climb, and he was surprised to find the corpse of another saint of the invincible realm. This was a demigod from the elemental clan, and it seemed to be an ice demon. It was 5 meters tall, and its body was like a snowman. Such a height could not be considered tall for a giant creature in the universe, and it could even be said to be small. However, its entire body was condensed from the ice element. Although it was only 5 meters tall, it made people feel like they were in a terrifying world of ice and snow. Even though it had died for an unknown period of time, its body still emitted waves of terrifying cold air. The staircase it was on seemed to be completely frozen, reaching the realm of absolute zero. It seemed like everything under this absolute zero would be frozen. Even time and space were frozen in this cold. When Xiaoping arrived at this staircase, he also felt that time and space on this staircase had been frozen, as if it had stopped at the moment the ice demon demigod died for eternity. If it were not for the protection of the power of the Tree of World, he would have been frozen by the absolute zero-domain power the moment he approached this staircase and turned into an eternal ice sculpture. It could be said that the strength of this demigod ice demon was definitely more terrifying than that of the Howling Moon Wolf. In fact, even among demigod creatures, there was a huge difference in combat power between them. If it was a demigod, it could even kill a weaker demigod. It did not mean that a saint who reached the invincible realm was truly invincible in the world. It just meant that below the invincible realm, demigod creatures were invincible. No matter how demonic the primordial saint was, it was impossible for him to defeat a demigod. This was a difference in quality, and it was even greater than the difference between the Thunder Retribution realm and the immortal saint. It was like a chasm. As expected, there is no magic treasure. Xiaoping also searched the body of this demigod ice demon for a while, and similarly, he did not find any treasures left behind by this demigod ice demon. It was empty, and only a corpse was left. He was not disappointed, and directly threw this demigod ice demon into the world of the classic of mountains and seas. To him, obtaining 2 demigod corpses was considered an unprecedented gain. 17,000th step. When Xiaoping arrived at this step, he suddenly found that the entire sound pattern mountain was shaking and humming, as if the horn of war had sounded. At this moment, all the demonic sounds seemed to have come to life, endowed with life by a mysterious power, and countless musical notes turned into lives. The void in all directions was also shrouded in illusions, and it seemed to have reached the supreme, illusory realm of turning illusions into reality. Vaguely, he found that he seemed to have fallen into an illusion. Countless musical notes turned into terrifying monsters that swarmed over, emitting terrifying devil chi as they tried to rush over and completely tear the barrier of the tree of world apart. Countless musical notes turned into beautiful women, each of them vivid and lifelike, as if they wanted to attract Xiaoping out of the interior of the barrier of the world and escape the protection of the barrier of the world. At this moment, Xiaoping seemed to be in the era of Yin Huang Star, making him relax his vigilance and return to childhood, where there was no danger around him. At this moment, the enemies that Xiaoping had killed seemed to have been resurrected, all of them bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws, their faces ferocious, clamoring for revenge. Chapter 2696. The illusions created by the demonic sound were extremely terrifying. Even an invincible saint might not be able to withstand it. Unfortunately, under the protection of the Tree of World, Xiaoping was not bewitched at all. Break! Xiaoping activated the mana in his body and activated the Tree of World, causing the world barrier to move in all directions and emit endless green light. Boom! In just an instant, the power shattered countless illusions. It was as though the musical note laws were completely shattered. The illusions were completely shattered and turned into powder. At this time, the 17,000th step was restored to its original appearance. Surrounding it was a staircase of a mountain, towering into the clouds. It was extremely desolate and simple. Next to the staircase was a terrifying demon that was over 100 meters tall. It gave off the aura of an invincible realm expert. The abyss demon energy was so condensed that even the void law was eroded into the abyss law. It was the abyss demon energy that was darker than darkness. It was as though one's soul would be completely corrupted if one came into contact with it. Without a doubt, this was a demigod-level abyss demon. Even in the abyss world, it was an existence that stood at the top of countless demons. It was called the Demon King and commanded billions of demons. Even an abyss demon has entered the secret land of Sound Pattern Mountain and climbed up to the 17,000th step. Xiaoping looked at the dead abyss demon and was instantly shocked. He did not expect that there would be traces of an abyss demon in the secret land of Sound Pattern Mountain. Moreover, it was a demigod-level demon. It had even died silently in this place without being recorded in history. Without a doubt, this demigod-level demon could climb up to the 17,000th step. This ability was considered extremely powerful even among demigods. But even so, it could not withstand a demonic sound here. Its soul was still shattered and it died tragically. There are no treasures left. Xiaoping searched the unknown demigod-level demon for a while, but did not find any treasures. He grabbed the demigod-level abyss demon and threw it into the world of the classic of mountains and seas. So far, he had obtained 3 demigod-level corpses. 17,900th step. As Xiaoping climbed up step by step, the closer he got to the peak, the more terrifying the power of the demonic sound became. Like a tidal wave, it surged over layer after layer, layer after layer, and the power kept stacking up. Even with the defensive power of the World Tree, it seemed like it could not hold on much longer. The billions of layers of the world barrier covering Xiaoping also showed signs of breaking. As the power of the demonic sound continued to increase, it formed a terrifying force that was about to shatter the barrier of the World Tree and seep into his body. If the barrier of the World Tree was really shattered, he would probably be killed by the demonic sound here. Therefore, he had to pass the remaining 100 steps as soon as possible and reach the top of the mountain. However, when Xiaoping arrived at this step, he was surprised to find another demigod. This was an angel, a demigod angel from the angel race. It stood on the stairs, its body emitting waves of holy light. The holy light pierced through the space-time in all directions. The white light seemed to have dyed this space-time into a holy light domain. Any life that stepped into this holy light domain seemed to be eroded by the power of the holy light and would be assimilated into angels. They would be forced to believe in the Lord and be engraved into the seeds of faith. This extremely exclusive power of the world domain was simply frightening. There was no doubt that this was the strongest demigod that Xiaoping had seen along the way. Even though it had died many years ago, the power emitted by its corpse was still terrifying. According to the power of this demigod angel, it was probably ranked in the top even in the entire universe. However, even so, it was still dead. There were only 100 steps left, and it still could not withstand the attack of the demonic sound. Could it be that the reason why those angels have been planning for so many years is to save this demigod angel? Or could it be that this demigod angel transmitted some information and let the angels know the secret? So they came to this sound pattern mountain mystic realm at all costs. Xiaoping touched his chin. He felt that he seemed to have guessed the reason why the angels carried out this plan. Just then, he suddenly realized that he had found 4 space rings on the demigod angel's body. They immediately emitted waves of domineering space-time nomological aura. His eyes lit up immediately, and he was extremely excited. I was wondering why no outsider had ever been able to leave this sound pattern mountain mystic realm. The treasures left behind by these demigod creatures couldn't possibly be taken out by others. Turns out they were all obtained by this demigod angel. Seeing these space rings appear on the demigod angel's body, how could Xiaoping not know where the treasures left behind by the 3 demigod creatures were? It turned out that they had all been obtained by this demigod angel. This demigod angel was probably the last saint to reach the core area of the sound pattern mountain mystic realm. It was also the person who had walked the furthest. As it climbed up step by step, it naturally collected the treasures left behind by the invincible saints. However, even so, after ascending the 17,900 step, it could no longer withstand the power of the demonic sound. It could no longer withstand it, and its soul was bombarded into smithereens. Therefore, it also died tragically in this place. Even the treasures it had collected, as well as the treasures it had on its body, were left behind. They had all been taken advantage of by Xiaoping, who had come later. Supreme sacred artifacts. There are actually 4 supreme sacred artifacts. Xiaoping used his divine senses to sense the treasures in the 4 space rings. Putting aside the fact that these demigod creatures had collected many universe treasures, many of which were unknown, he noticed that there were 4 supreme sacred artifacts inside. He noticed that there were 4 peerless saint artifacts inside. Clearly, they were the invincible saint's life treasures, and they were all left in the space ring. Wait, why are the weapon spirits all dead? Xiaoping was stunned. He had originally thought that these 4 supreme sacred artifacts were in good condition. However, at this moment, he discovered that the weapon spirits of these 4 supreme sacred artifacts had all died and lost their spirituality. Due to the death of the weapon spirits, these originally supreme sacred artifacts had now dropped to the level of high-grade sacred artifacts, or even middle-grade sacred artifacts. Right? The demonic sound doesn't just attack the trial takers. It also attacks all living beings with souls. Even the owner, the invincible saint, couldn't withstand it. In that case, these supreme sacred artifacts wouldn't be able to withstand it either. In the end, the weapon spirits of these supreme sacred artifacts were killed by the demonic sound. At this moment, Xiaoping also thought of this and immediately felt extremely regretful. He had not expected that the weapon spirits of these 4 supreme sacred artifacts would be destroyed. He had picked up these half-destroyed sacred artifacts. It was really a reckless waste of resources. Chapter 2697. However, it's not impossible to repair these 4 peerless sage weapons. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. Although the artifact spirits of the 4 peerless saint artifacts had been destroyed and they were heavily damaged, their foundations as peerless saint artifacts were still there. If they could be repaired completely, they would be able to nurture another artifact spirit. By then, these treasures would naturally be able to regain their peak glory as peerless sage weapons. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, endless demonic sounds came crashing down from the top of the stairs. It was as though billions of demons were attacking and bombarding the barrier of the Tree of World in a frenzy. Even the barrier of the Tree of World could not withstand such terrifying demonic sounds. The layers of the world barrier shattered like glass and made cracking sounds. Originally, Xiaoping had wanted to take a look at the 4 space rings and see what treasures the 4 invincible sages had left behind. However, it seemed that there was no time for that now. Die! At the thought of this, Xiaoping's body flashed, and he rushed up the stairs. There were only 100 steps anyway. As long as he rushed up in one go, there would be no problem. Rumble, however, the higher he went, the more terrifying the power of the demonic sounds that erupted. As the musical notes came crashing down, it was as though many small worlds were crashing down from the void. It was as though planets were crashing into the barrier of the Tree of World, causing earth-shattering noises. The power of such explosions was enough to shatter the void and destroy countless laws. Whoosh! Xiaoping did not care. Relying on the absolute defense of the Tree of World and the barrier of the world, he rushed forward and ignored all the pressure. He ran all the way to the top of the Sound Pattern Mountain. In just a few breaths' time, he sprinted all the way. With a thump, he finally stepped onto the last step and entered the top of the mountain. Walala, at this moment, Xiaoping felt the pressure on his body dissipate and disappear without a trace. It was as though the sky had cleared after the rain and the dark clouds had completely disappeared. Is it over? Xiaoping stood on the ground and saw that the originally extremely sturdy barrier of the Tree of World had been bombarded by countless demonic sounds. Billions of layers of the barrier had been smashed and shattered like glass. Fortunately, he had rushed to the top of the mountain in time and stepped onto the 18,000th step. If he had taken a little longer, even the barrier of the Tree of World would not have been able to protect him. But no matter what, he still succeeded and passed the trial of the God of War. Indeed, other than me, no invincible saint can pass the God of War's trial. Xiaoping looked around and found that apart from himself, there were no other creatures. There was not even a corpse. It seemed that the strongest was the demigod angel. It was only 100 steps away from reaching the top. Unfortunately, even so, the demigod angel still died on the eve of dawn. It wasn't just the demigod angel. The other 3 invincible realm saints were also dead. They couldn't even reach the height of the demigod angel. They couldn't even touch the real peak of the Sound Pattern Mountain. Is this the temple of the God of War? He lifted his head and immediately saw a huge, majestic, and ancient palace standing at the top of the Sound Pattern Mountain. However, the palace was in tatters, as if it had turned into ruins. There were even hundreds of terrifying spatial cracks on the ground. It was as if the spatial cracks could not be mended after countless eras. Vaguely, amidst the traces of destruction in the palace, there was an aura that made people's hearts palpitate. It was as if gods had once fought to the death in this temple to cause such destruction. Young man, congratulations. You have passed the trial of the Step of Courage and passed the trial of the God of War. At this moment, an ancient voice sounded from the depths of the void. Your trial has proven your courage, your talent, and your strength. You are qualified to receive the inheritance of the God of War. Enter the temple and ascend to the throne. This place has everything that the God of War has. You will obtain everything and wield supreme divine authority. With a bang, the door of the temple opened, revealing the situation inside the temple. The inside of the temple was completely empty. There was only a huge throne standing in the center of the temple. There were many divine texts engraved on it, as if it contained countless laws of the origin of the universe. Just the power that the throne emitted was above that of a peerless saint artifact. Xiaoping, standing before the throne, was as small as an ant. Whoosh! Hearing these words, Xiaoping walked into the temple and arrived in front of the throne. He saw that the throne was emitting an extraordinary divine might, causing people to want to bow down and worship it. It was as if countless mortals who saw this throne would subconsciously prostrate themselves, not daring to look at it directly. This was a divine might that was like a prison. Mortals almost couldn't look at it directly. Dong! At this moment, Xiaoping walked forward step by step. As if attracted by something, he subconsciously ascended the throne and sat down. Instantly, he felt an unparalleled divine power being transmitted to him from the throne. It was as if his body was wrapped up from all directions, causing his entire body to feel warm. It was as if an endless amount of divine energy was being injected into him. He felt as if he had transformed into the true god of war, receiving the blessing of an endless amount of divine power. It was as if the power in his body was endless and could never be used up. Release the restrictions on your soul and accept the inheritance of the god of war. From now on, you will be the only god of war in this universe and the only true god of this era. You will control all the power of war. An empty voice came from the depths of the throne. It buzzed and seemed to cause the void laws of the entire temple to tremble. It resonated with the origin. It was supreme. The entire sound pattern mountain also buzzed, and countless sound laws vibrated. Okay. Xiaoping sat on the throne, closed his eyes, and released the restrictions on his soul. Walala, at this moment, the entire throne trembled and released endless divine light that gathered at one point. A terrifying divine power of war was injected into Xiaoping's body and entered the depths of his soul. This power was simply unstoppable, like a torrent of fate. Hee, foolish human, your soul and your body now completely belong to me. I, the god of war, will be resurrected in this era of the universe. At this moment, a sinister voice came from the depths of the void. It seemed to be very pleased with itself, as if its plot had succeeded. A terrifying soul power instantly entered the depths of Xiaoping's consciousness, as if it wanted to completely destroy Xiaoping's soul and replace his body. Chapter 2698. Huh? What's going on? The god of war's soul immediately invaded Xiaoping's consciousness. He wanted to destroy the soul of this insignificant human and then take over his body to revive. However, after entering Xiaoping's consciousness, the god of war was stunned. He suddenly realized that he seemed to have entered a cosmic void. It was boundless, and there were 9 worlds surrounding him. He had no way of finding the true body of this insignificant human. To be honest, if he was a god, it would not be strange at all for him to have such a huge sea of consciousness. However, this insignificant human was just a mortal. How could he have such a terrifying sea of consciousness? Was he still human? For a moment, the god of war was stunned. This seemed to be different from his original plan. I see. I didn't expect the god of war to still be alive and leave behind a remnant of his soul. Did he want to take this opportunity to choose a suitable inheritor and reincarnate? That's a good plan. With a swoosh, Xiaoping's soul appeared in front of the god of war. The god of war's appearance seemed to be that of a minotaur. He wore a black and gold armor and held a black giant axe in his hand. A terrifying aura emanated from his body, making him look extremely ferocious. The god of war's body was extremely huge. It was like a 10,000-meter tall mountain that spanned across the void. Insignificant mortal, when did you discover this? The god of war's face was gloomy as he stared at Xiaoping. He did not expect this insignificant human to discover his plan and be prepared for it. This was far beyond his expectations. As a god, he should be in control of everything, But now, an accident had occurred. I discovered from the start. Did you think that I wouldn't be able to sense the disgusting soul aura hidden in your throne? I have inherited the power of the Lord of Hell, the god of the underworld, who controls the dead. You can't hide from me, Xiaoping said calmly. With his golden crow's eyes of hell, nothing could hide from him. He could clearly see a wisp of the god of war's soul hidden beneath the throne. However, he pretended that he didn't notice anything and allowed the soul of the god of war to come out and invade his sea of consciousness. This move was to alert the snake and lure it out of its hole. After all, if this wisp of the god of war soul was hidden in the throne, he would not be able to kill it. However, if it broke free from the power of the throne and came to his sea of consciousness, it would lose the protection of the power of the throne. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill this wisp of soul. Nether God? A bunch of nonsense. You're just a mere mortal, yet you dare claim to have inherited the power of the Nether God? What a joke. The god of war laughed coldly. He did not believe Xiaoping's words at all. His face darkened, and a murderous aura emanated from him. But even if you know, so what? You actually foolishly allowed me to enter your mind space. You are asking for trouble. As long as I destroy your soul here, everything you have done will be for naught. Its body emitted a dense, killing intent that made one tremble in fear and shook the void. Even though it was not at its peak, and only a wisp of its soul was left behind, it was still not something an ordinary saint could compare to. Even the soul of a demigod could not compare to this wisp of soul. So what if this insignificant mortal knew about his plan and existence? In the face of absolute power, in the face of the power of a god, this insignificant human would still die. If you were at your peak, I would have turned around and left. There is no way I can resist you. However, you are merely a wisp of your soul. How dare you speak so shamelessly? Why do you think I dare to let you invade my mind space? It is because I can easily kill you. Do you understand? Xiaoping was expressionless. A terrifying aura emanated from his body. The power of the golden crow of hell's bloodline surged throughout his body. It was as if he was a demon that had been born from the depths of hell. If this was the true body of the god of war, Xiaoping would not have been able to do anything. However, this was only a wisp of his soul. As the inheritor of the golden crow of hell's bloodline and the master of a high-level plane of hell, Xiaoping had many ways to deal with souls. He could even easily capture the soul of a god. How is this possible? This is the aura of the original source of hell. Furthermore, is the purest power of hell. Damn it, where did a mere mortal like you get such power from? The god of war was shocked. He could not believe his own eyes. The person in front of him was clearly a mere mortal. He had not even reached the level of a demigod. How could he control such a pure power of hell and enter the mysterious and unpredictable hell? This was unbelievable. However, before the god of war could think of any way to deal with this, his hair stood on end. At this time, he clearly saw this insignificant human take out a dark gold pen. Although he had never seen any treasure that could be forged into a pen, this did not stop him from feeling how terrifying this dark gold pen was. The sharp power contained within the pen could practically tear through the void and tear through karma. It was as if this was the sharpest treasure in the universe, capable of cutting through everything. Wait, stop. This is just a misunderstanding. We can talk. The god of war shouted out loudly, expressing that everything that had happened earlier was just a misunderstanding. In reality, there were still things that they could talk about. There was no need for them to get into such a tense situation. However, there was no way Xiaoping would listen to the god of war's words. The reincarnation pen in his hand slashed out at the god of war's soul and drew a line in the void. Boom! In an instant, a dark gold light shot out from the tip of the reincarnation pen. This light was even more terrifying than any of the mystic skills that Xiaoping had used previously. This was the first time Xiaoping had used his full power after reaching the immemorial ancient later stage. This dark gold light was extremely terrifying. As it slashed out, it seemed to tear through space, time, the barriers of the world, and karma. It caused all matter to turn into nothingness. In the entire void of the universe, it was as if this dark gold light was the only thing left. It was as if this dark gold light had torn the universe apart and split it into two. No, no, no. The god of war let out a shrill cry, feeling extremely terrified. He had yet to be reborn and had yet to unleash his might. There were still many plans that he wanted to carry out. He still wanted to return to his peak. He could not die just like this. Don't. However, this power did not move according to his will at all. The power of the reincarnation pen slashed out, slicing the god of war's soul apart and shattering it completely. The pitiful god of war, who was extremely famous in the previous era of the universe, was killed just like that by a single stroke of the pen. He had fallen completely and could no longer be revived. Chapter 2699. After the god of war soul was killed by Xia Ping's reincarnation brush, the world tree on his body began to move. Countless roots extended from the void and devoured the scattered soul energy in an instant. This was especially so for the god of war. This was the most fundamental energy that came from a god. Even an invincible saint would dream of such an item. To the world tree, it was a great supplement. This could be said to be a miraculous encounter. Walala, in an instant, after the world tree devoured the remnant soul of the god of war, it was as if it had eaten a complete supplement. It received endless benefits. Its body began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. 1 kilometer, 100 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers, 1 million kilometers. It was as if it was growing by leaps and bounds. It was fine if it was just its body that was growing, but the leaves on its body began to grow as well. World runes began to appear on them. Vaguely, these leaves seemed to have formed an independent space. They gave off the aura of the embryonic form of a world. It was as if many worlds were being born. Xia Ping could sense that the world tree had never been so powerful before. It was as if the world tree was formed from billions of different worlds. It was as if it itself was an infinite universe. Billions of source laws of the universe seemed to be engraved on the body of the world tree, turning into tree patterns on its body. They emitted a green light and branded the void. More importantly, the countless roots on its body became thicker and stronger. They crazily devoured the energy of billions of different dimensions, and its strength increased further. The leaves and branches were all growing stronger. Its body also gave off a faint aura of divinity. It seemed to be evolving towards the realm of gods. At this moment, the world tree seemed to have become stronger than ever. Xia Ping also received the gift of the world tree's growth. There seemed to be a huge amount of life energy and source energy of the universe being injected into his body as if they were free. He felt that the magic power in his body was growing rapidly. It was as if he had saved millions of years of effort in condensing magic power. Every meridian, every acupuncture point, every space in his purple mansion was filled with dense magic power that had almost condensed into a substance. After receiving such a huge amount of energy, he felt that he was not far from the full, immemorial ancient realm. It was as if he had received enlightenment from an ancient saint and was growing rapidly. The sea of consciousness seems to be expanding as well. Xia Ping's eyes lit up. As the world tree grew, his sea of consciousness also provided the soil for the world tree, so his sea of consciousness expanded further. At the same time, the world tree had taken root in every space in his sea of consciousness, making his spiritual space even more stable. It seemed like no power could shake his soul at all. Wisps of the world tree's power even fused with his blood. Rays of green light fused with his blood, making his life force stronger than ever. Countless green runes fused into it, seemingly becoming a part of his skin, as if forming a barrier of the world tree. It could be said that he had benefited greatly from the growth of the world tree this time, and his strength had increased further. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. He had obtained some of the god of war's memories from the world tree. It turned out that in the previous universe, the god of war had been betrayed by the other gods. As a result, the god of war was heavily injured. Furthermore, the god of war was unable to withstand the power of the god of war's destruction. Thus, he brought along his life weapon, the war horn, and his palace, the war god temple, and hid in a corner of the universe. Unfortunately, even so, his soul was unable to withstand the power of the god of war's destruction. At the moment when he was about to die, he split off a wisp of his soul and attached it to the war horn. After countless eras, the god of war finally regained a bit of his strength and regained his sanity. However, he realized that he was trapped in the temple. The war god temple was built to protect him, and its defense was extremely strong. No life from the outside world could enter. However, this was the reason why he was in trouble. After all, the god of war was only left with a wisp of his soul. Once he left the protection of the war god temple, he would immediately be wiped out by the origin source law of the outside world and disappear from the universe. If the god of war wanted to live and survive in this universe, he had to be reborn. He had to use the flesh and blood of the living beings in this universe as his foundation. Only then would he be able to avoid being wiped out by the origin source law of the universe. The problem was that he had set up various training programs in the war god temple. Even an invincible sage could not enter, let alone other living beings. The result was obvious. The god of war was anxious and wished that a large number of living beings would immediately enter the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain. Unfortunately, no one had the ability to do so. As time passed, this wisp of soul became weaker and weaker. It was as if it was about to disappear. At this moment, Xiaoping actually barged in. When the god of war found out about this, he was overjoyed. The heavens were on his side, and he thought that his fate had not run out yet. However, he did not expect that this human who had barged into the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain was so terrifying. He actually had a god weapon that could kill souls. This was cheating. If it was an ordinary sage, even an invincible sage with a peerless sage weapon, he would not be able to kill the god of war, even if he was only left with a wisp of his soul. This was because the soul of a god was different from that of a sage. It was difficult to kill a god, and normal methods would not be able to do anything to a god. This was why the god of war was so arrogant. He was not afraid that he could not possess a mortal. Xiaoping had the reincarnation brush, an ultimate treasure of hell. Such an ultimate treasure of hell could even kill a demon god at his peak, let alone the god of war, who was only left with a wisp of his soul. Therefore, the god of war was extremely unlucky to have met someone who could restrain him. There's a lack of memory? Xiaoping squinted his eyes. He had wanted to continue exploring the god of war's memory to find out what had happened in the previous universe. However, this memory was a complete blank. He did not know if it had been erased by some forbidden power or if the god of war soul was incomplete, causing this part of his memory to be lost. That was not all. Most of the god of war's memories were blurry and unclear. Only after he had awakened in this universe did his memories become slightly clearer. He could not pry into the rest of his memories. This made it impossible for him to pry into the secrets of other gods. Chapter 2700. Fortunately, there is still a divine artifact left in this place, the Warhorn. Otherwise, I would have suffered a great loss. Xiaoping touched his chin. The Warhorn was not anywhere else but the gigantic Sound Pattern Mountain that he was currently standing on. Every once in a while, the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm would produce a demonic sound wave. It was the war horn that emitted waves of divine sound from within its body. Even though it was less than a billionth of its power at its peak, it still had a terrifying, destructive power. Even invincible sages would find it difficult to withstand its power. Unfortunately, the artifact spirit of this divine artifact, the war horn, was killed by the origin law of the universe during the Great Destruction. There was no way for it to survive until now. If the artifact spirit of this divine artifact was still alive and protected the soul of the god of war, Xiaoping would not have been able to kill the god of war so easily. Therefore, the war horn could be considered as an ownerless artifact. Anyone who could enter the core could control it. I didn't expect this Sound Pattern Mountain to be the famous divine artifact, the war horn. Legend has it that it is a terrifying divine artifact from the previous universe. It has the power to destroy heaven and earth. Corinne was now aware of the current situation. He understood that the god of war had been killed by Xiaoping, and that the god of war had left behind his own life-bound artifact, the warhorn. He was suddenly filled with emotion and could not suppress the excitement in his heart. This was the first time he had come into contact with a divine artifact at such a close distance. Moreover, other than the destruction of the artifact's spirit, its body was actually intact. Therefore, it could erupt with such a powerful force. For an artifact spirit like Corinne, a divine artifact was simply the home of all treasures. It was also the ultimate goal. It could be said to be the biggest idol. Now that such an idol had appeared in front of him, how could he hide the excitement in his heart? If I take away the war horn, I'm afraid that it won't be long before the power of the divine prohibition in this place collapses. Xiaoping knew that the most important support of the entire Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm was the divine artifact, the war horn. If he took away the war horn, the entire Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm would lose its most important power. Although the power of the divine prohibition wouldn't collapse all of a sudden. With the passage of time, thousands of years later, the core region of the entire Sound Pattern Mountain mystic realm would collapse and disappear without a trace. Of course, at that time, Xiaoping would have already slipped away. No one would know that he was the one who did it, and no one would know that he was the one who took away the greatest treasure of Sound Pattern Mountain's mystic realm. However, the war horn isn't the only treasure here. There are also many other treasures of the universe. Xiaoping scanned his surroundings. He also discovered that there were many universe treasures and unique ores in the surroundings. A place that could withstand the power of the war horn, even if it was originally an ordinary place, will be transformed into a real secret realm after a long period of time. This was the supreme power of a divine artifact. The Sound Pattern Mountain that was scattered in the secret realm was one of the universe ores forged from the warhorn. The ores closest to the warhorn were even more precious. They could be said to be the essence of the warhorn, the highest quality soundstone. They could be said to be divine stones, as they contained a portion of the warhorn's origin power. Such divine stones were also scattered around the peak of Sound Pattern Mountain. They were densely packed, and there were at least tens of thousands of them. If an invincible saint were to see these precious ores, they would probably go crazy and fight over them. If I were to integrate these soundstone of the highest grade into the Bell of Chaos, it would definitely evolve to the level of a supreme divine artifact and be further strengthened. Xiaoping clenched his fists. He had originally wanted to integrate the war horn into the Bell of Chaos, allowing the Bell of Chaos to completely devour the war horn's power and elevate it to the level of a divine artifact. However, he thought about it carefully and realized that it was impossible to do, as it was too ridiculous. It was like an ant trying to swallow an elephant. He would probably be stuffed to death before he could swallow it. Everything needed to be done step by step. It was impossible to reach the sky in one step. Therefore, he decided to temporarily elevate the Bell of Chaos to the level of a supreme divine artifact. Then, when the Chaos Bead's power was raised to the extreme, he would swallow the war horn and allow the Bell of Chaos to evolve into a true divine artifact. A few days later, on the peak of Sound Pattern Mountain, Xiaoping circulated the infernal golden crow flames and completely melted these soundstone of the highest grade. These ores also turned into liquid and integrated into the Bell of Chaos. Whoosh, the Bell of Chaos seemed to transform into a dark golden beast that greedily devoured these soundstone and integrated them into every corner of its body, becoming a part of its body. Thanks to the power of these soundstone, the quality of the Bell of Chaos kept increasing, and increasing. Dong, dong, dong. At that moment, Xiaoping seemed to have turned into a blacksmith as he constantly hammered the Bell of Chaos, causing all the ores in the Bell of Chaos to fuse together and become one. Even the soundstone's laws of sound, vibration, destruction, and so on, as well as the power of countless universes' origin laws, were completely integrated into the Bell of Chaos because of this hammering. As time passed, Xiaoping constantly hammered, and the Bell of Chaos aura and power seemed to reach its peak. Bang! At that moment, under Xia Ping's final hammering, the bell of chaos power was elevated to the extreme and underwent an earth-shattering transformation. Finally, at this moment, the bell of chaos evolved and advanced to a peerless sage artifact. Oh! Under Xia Ping's perception, he discovered that the bell of chaos was much stronger than before. Its body contained complete universe laws, as though it had formed a space of its own. Inside the bell of chaos, a complete world seemed to be born, forming a world domain. At the same time, its laws of sound, vibration, destruction, chaos, and so on were fused into this chaos world. This also made the bell of chaos unprecedentedly powerful. Clang! He gently struck the bell of chaos, and immediately, waves of demonic sound erupted from the depths of the bell of chaos, causing the surrounding void to ripple. The power of this demonic sound swept in all directions, covering a radius of 100,000 light-years. The destructive power produced was boundlessly terrifying. It was as though a demonic sound tide was born, destroying everything in its path. All life and matter were reduced to ashes by this demonic sound. Clearly, not only did the bell of chaos possess the power of the war bugle to trigger the demonic sound tide, but it also possessed the power of the chaos laws, causing everything to turn into chaos and return to nothingness. Just in terms of destructive power, the bell of chaos might probably exceeded the primordial heavenly dragon talisman, a peerless sage artifact. Chapter 2701. Another few days passed. Xiaoping finally familiarized himself with the bell of chaos. It could be said that the current bell of chaos was thousands of times more powerful than before. It had truly become a top treasure in the universe. Furthermore, its evolution had only just begun. It had yet to end. I've gained a lot this time. Xiaoping was very satisfied. This trip to the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm had not only allowed his life treasure, the Bell of Chaos, to evolve into a peerless saint weapon, but it also allowed the World Tree to devour a wisp of the God of War's spiritual power, causing the World Tree to evolve tremendously. There was even a damaged divine artifact, the War Horn, that belonged to him. If other sages knew of Xiaoping's gains, they would be extremely jealous. At the thought of this, Xiaoping felt that there was no longer a need to stay in the secret dimension of Sound Pattern Mountain. He grabbed the Sound Pattern Mountain beneath his feet, which was the War Horn. As the God of War had been killed by him, the War Horn had become an ownerless object. Therefore, anyone could easily control this War Horn. Boom! Immediately, a huge amount of power enveloped the War Horn. Xiaoping instantly pulled it out and threw it into the world of the classic of mountains and seas to temporarily lock it up. After all, he was temporarily unable to make use of this war horn. At that moment, after the war horn disappeared, the entire secret dimension of Sound Pattern Mountain was empty. A huge, deep pit had appeared on the ground. It was so dark that one could not even see their own fingers. Faint cracks appeared on the divine restrictions that covered the surroundings, and they emitted cracking sounds like they were made of glass. Without the warhorn source of energy, the god seals could no longer be maintained. Of course, due to inertia, these divine restrictions wouldn't collapse right away, and they would maintain their complete state for a period of time. Let's go. Xiaoping wasn't interested in staying in this place any longer. After plundering all the valuable treasures and ores, there were no more treasures left. Furthermore, if the god seals collapsed and the news that he had taken all the treasures in the secret dimension of Sound Pattern Mountain was leaked, many sages would have their eyes on him. When that happened, he would be in big trouble. Therefore, he had to leave this place as soon as possible to prevent the news that he had appeared in the core region of the secret dimension of Sound Pattern Mountain from being leaked. Whoosh! Xiaoping's body flickered as he melded into the void, transforming into a rock that easily penetrated through the god's barrier in all directions. In the blink of an eye, he left the core region and flew out. His speed was also extremely fast, and it did not take long for him to reach the outer region. He used his divine senses to sense the surroundings and very quickly found the exit to leave the sound-patterned mountain mystic realm. Rumble, just as he was about to leave the secret realm of sound-patterned mountain, the surrounding void shook and rippled. Suddenly, a strong aura descended and covered the surroundings. Instantly, powerful angels appeared in front of Xiaoping, completely surrounding him. It was so tight that not even a drop of water could escape, not giving Xiaoping any chance to escape. The three primordial angels in the lead also split into three directions, forming a triangle. Terrifying holy light domain power erupted from their bodies, fusing into one. It was as if this holy light domain had crushed down and permeated the space-time in all directions. It was as if this entire void space had been completely frozen. Even a saint would find it difficult to move an inch. Damn human saint, after waiting for so long, you finally appeared. One of the primordial angels stared at Xiaoping ferociously. You think you can escape? You must be dreaming. Don't think that we can't find you just because your concealment ability is strong. There's only one exit to the sound pattern mountain mystic realm. If you want to leave this place, you have to find the exit. We'll stay here and wait for you to appear. Another primordial angel sneered with a murderous aura, indicating that they had already blocked all the exits. They wouldn't give Xiaoping any chance to escape. There's still one more primordial saint. Where did that guy go? We only let him escape when the demonic sound tide came. There won't be such a good chance next time. The remaining golden primordial angel revealed a cold glint in its eyes. Escaped? Hearing this, Xiaoping had a strange expression. He had long thought that Gurulai wouldn't die so easily, but he hadn't expected him to escape so easily. Of course, he felt that Gurulai was still concealing his strength and hadn't used his full strength. Otherwise, the group of angels would definitely have suffered heavy casualties and wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed. It can only be said that Gurulai was too shrewd. Even at such a moment, he wasn't willing to reveal his true strength. He was simply too careful and prudent. What's the point? Revenge breeds revenge. If this continues, it won't do anyone any good. Why don't I give you guys some money and we can settle this privately? Thinking about this, Xiaoping rolled his eyes and said to the group of angels, Privately? Privately my ass. What do you think is happening now? You want to settle this privately with some money? That's fine too, but you have to hand over your life. One of the primordial angels was so furious that his nose became crooked. This scoundrel human was still acting like he was rich and overbearing, thinking that he could do anything with money. He even wanted to use money to settle privately with them. This kind of behavior was simply humiliating their angels. It was truly outrageous. Commit suicide to atone for your sins. Stretch out your neck and be executed. This is your only ending, and no one will be able to save you now. Another primordial angel surged with killing intent. The killing intent on his body simply pierced through the void and shook all directions. The other angels were also filled with killing intent and didn't conceal it in the slightest. They all targeted Xiaoping at the same time. If gazes could kill saints, Xiaoping would have already been killed 1,000 times over. Looks like there's no other way. I originally wanted to settle things peacefully, but I didn't expect you guys to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since you're courting death, don't blame me. Xiaoping sighed. He originally didn't want to make a move, but these angels had already come to bully him. If he didn't retaliate, they would think that he was easy to bully. Foolish human, you're still being stubborn even when death is at hand. Who exactly is the one courting death? Who do you think you're talking to? We're the angel race, the most ancient race in the universe. Our status is noble, and our bloodline is majestic. How can your inferior human bloodline compare to us? Today, I'm going to cut you into 8 pieces as a sacrifice to the souls of those dead angels in heaven. The golden primordial angel roared angrily, his killing intent soaring into the heavens. Attack! Kill this ancient human saint. I want his soul to be annihilated in the universe. Chapter 2702. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the group of angels attacked at the same time, especially the three primordial angels. They had completely treated Xia Ping as an enemy that they had to kill, so they did not hold back at all. World of holy light. In an instant, the powers of the three primordial saints and dozens of primordial saints came crashing down at the same time. A huge world territory appeared in the void, suppressing the space-time in all directions. At that moment, the world of holy light covered a radius of 100,000 light-years. It seemed to corrode the space-time in the void, forcefully changing the laws of the void into the laws of the world of holy light. Xia Ping's pupils shrank. He could feel how terrifying this world territory was. It was like a complete world, with time, space, creation, and other complete source laws. When such a world law came crashing down, it was like the power of 1,000 worlds bombarding him. If he was hit by this majestic world power, even a sage would be turned into ashes. It could be said that this was how terrifying the primordial saints were. Once they reached the primordial realm, they would have completely comprehended the laws of the world and controlled the power of the world. At that moment, the primordial saints were extremely terrifying. Every inch of their flesh and blood would evolve into a miniature world. Their bodies were extremely powerful, and every move they made would explode with power that could destroy the world. What was even more amazing was that the primordial saints could borrow the power of the world to activate the power of the Peerless Saint artifact, unleashing most of the power of the Peerless Saint artifact. One had to know that ordinary sages could also activate Peerless Saint artifacts, but that was only through the power of the source. They could only unleash a fraction of the power of the Peerless Saint artifact. However, the primordial saints were different. They could unleash most of the power of the Peerless Saint artifact, and the power they could unleash was simply incomparable. It was like a mountain bike. Ordinary people could only travel at a speed of 10 to 20 kilometers per hour, but top athletes could unleash hundreds of kilometers per hour. That was the difference. Moreover, these three primordial angels were not ordinary primordial saints. They had been immersed in the primordial realm for countless eras and had almost completely comprehended the laws of the world. The power of the world that they could unleash was even more terrifying. This world of holy light was a world territory formed by the three primordial angels and dozens of primordial angels. It contained a terrifying power of the world, and when it came crashing down, it could crush any primordial saint to death. Needless to say, he was just a puny ancient sage. It could be said that this was their killing move, and they had practically used all their strength. They did not intend to give Xia Ping any chance to escape at all, and they were going to crush Xia Ping in the void in an instant. They wouldn't give Xia Ping a chance to escape like last time. Then let's test the power of the Bell of Chaos. Xia Ping immediately summoned the Bell of Primal Chaos and placed it on top of his head. Immediately, the Bell of Primal Chaos emitted a primal chaos domain that covered the space-time in all directions. Meanwhile, his body was also enveloped by the power of a golden bell. Layers of chaotic barriers appeared, displaying the power of laws that could not be invaded by anything. Dong! In an instant, the angel's world of holy light crushed over and struck the Bell of Chaos heavily. The two forces collided immediately. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, a series of explosions rang out in the depths of the void. Terrifying black holes were blasted open, whistling as if they had caused a void storm. A deep crater that spanned tens of thousands of kilometers was blasted open in the ground. Soil flew everywhere, and smoke billowed. Countless rocks were shaken into powder, destroying everything. But even so, the power of the world of holy light was still unable to break through the defense of the Bell of Chaos. It was easily blocked, and Xia Ping was unharmed. It was as if the primal chaos domain had isolated and repelled all the power of the explosion. What? Impossible. He's just a human ancient sage. How could he block the world of holy light created by so many angels? What kind of joke is this? An ancient angel could not help but cry out. It simply could not believe its eyes, because such power was enough to kill any primordial sage. There was no reason why it could not kill an ancient sage. However, the attack that they were so confident in was blocked by this kid. If this was a joke, then this joke was really too big. A peerless sage artifact. This guy actually has a peerless sage artifact. That's why he was able to block our combined attack. An ancient angel's eyes narrowed as it stared at Xiaoping. It had never thought that a puny human ancient sage would have a peerless sage artifact. After all, a peerless sage artifact was the ultimate treasure of a race. Even if this kid was human, and humans were also a peak race, the number of peerless sage artifacts was still very small. It could be counted on one hand to describe the number of peerless sage artifacts. But it had never thought that this kid would have one. That's a bell-shaped peerless sage artifact. I've never heard of it before. Since when did such a peerless sage artifact appear in the universe? Another ancient angel was very puzzled. Because peerless sage artifacts were so rare, it could be said that every peerless sage artifact was famous enough to shake the world. For example, the dragon race's primordial heavenly dragon talisman, the fortune saint's fortune diagram, the angel race's judgment spear, and so on. They were all famous and known by countless sages, but had never seen a peerless sage artifact like this bell that exuded the aura of chaos. Let alone seeing it. It had never even heard of such a peerless sage artifact. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air and appeared for the first time. No matter where it came from, if our angel race can get our hands on this peerless sage artifact, it will definitely be able to increase the angel race's foundation and destiny by leaps and bounds. Even the heavens are helping us. The golden ancient angel's eyes revealed a look of greed. The other angels were only shocked by the appearance of this peerless sage artifact. But this ancient angel was already thinking of taking it for himself. If it could get its hands on this peerless sage artifact, it would definitely be able to increase its combat prowess by leaps and bounds. It would be like adding wings to a tiger. It was true that it had the judgment spear on it right now, but that was something that the angel race had temporarily bestowed upon it for the sake of completing its mission. Once the mission was over, this peerless sage artifact would definitely be taken back. Strictly speaking, this peerless sage artifact did not belong to it. Therefore, one could imagine just how much it desired this peerless sage artifact in Xiaoping's possession. It could not wait to snatch it away and make it its own. The other angels had also thought of the same thing at that moment. Each and every one of them stared at Xiaoping greedily like a pack of wolves eyeing a fat sheep. Ring it out. Sound of world destruction. Xiaoping was unmoved by the words of the angels and their greedy gazes. He revolved the power of creation within his body and activated his life-bound magic treasure, the Bell of Chaos. Chapter 2703. The angels were all stunned. They focused their attention and stared at Xiaoping with serious expressions. They knew that a peerless sage artifact, even the most ordinary peerless sage artifact, was not to be underestimated. However, they had never seen this mysterious peerless sage artifact before. It was difficult for them to know how powerful this artifact was and whether it could pose a great threat to them. In an instant, the Bell of Chaos began to move under the operation of the power of creation. It gently swayed above Xiaoping's head, swayed left and right, and began to vibrate. The Bell of Chaos was a peerless sage artifact. Generally speaking, ancient sages could only use a portion of its power when using the power of creation. However, the Bell of Chaos was Xiaoping's natal artifact. It was connected to his bloodline and was like his limbs. Therefore, even though he was only an ancient sage, he could use a large portion of the Bell of Chaos power by using the power of creation. It was far beyond the imagination of other sages. This was also the huge difference between a natal artifact and other artifacts. Clang, 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 under the activation of Xiaoping's massive power of creation, the Bell of Chaos constantly shook gently. The frequency was not very high, but every time it shook, countless nomological patterns would appear on its body. They filled the air with origin-source laws, emitting endless light that pierced through the void. The vibrating sound seemed to resonate with the laws of the universe. Waves of ripples were produced, turning the void in all directions like the surface of a lake. When a frequency of the vibrations reached a certain level, waves of chaos demonic sound erupted from the bell of chaos. It exploded into billions of notes that were almost tangible and blasted out in all directions. These chaos demonic sounds stacked on top of each other and seemed to form waves. The power grew stronger with each layer, as if it would never stop and would constantly strengthen. With the bell of chaos as the center, the area within a radius of hundreds of thousands of light years was enveloped in the chaos demonic sound. Even the void produced waves of ripples, forming a storm that produced terrifying destructive power. At the same time, Xiaoping felt that his spiritual power was pouring out crazily and being absorbed by the bell of chaos. If it was not for the fact that he had 9 purple mansions and his spiritual power far exceeded that of ancient sages, just activating this peerless saint artifact, the bell of chaos, would probably devour all the energy in his body in just a few breaths' time, leaving not a single drop behind. What? The angels' expressions changed drastically when they sensed the terrifying, chaotic, demonic sound. They were all top-notch sages with outstanding strength. How could they not sense how terrifying this power was? This kind of demonic sound was simply the sound of the end of the world. It was as if it was playing the morning song of the world. Wherever the sound went, it simply destroyed everything and shattered the vacuum. Vaguely, they seemed to have heard the final wails of countless worlds, and it was simply horrifying and terrifying. Without a doubt, if they were struck by the primal chaos demonic sound, even angels wouldn't be able to withstand it and would be reduced to ashes in a breath's time. What's going on? How can a mere ancient sage unleash such a powerful attack? An ancient angel found it hard to believe. It felt that this was not a terrifying attack that an ancient saint could unleash. It's not his ability. It's just that the power of that peerless saint artifact is extraordinary. One of the primordial angels narrowed its eyes. It could tell that this peerless saint artifact could allow its user to unleash combat prowess that was several dozen to 100 times greater than normal. It was not an existence that other saint artifacts could compare to. It was the first time it had seen such a peerless saint artifact with such unparalleled offensive power. Oh no, this is the power of the law of sound that is comparable to the demonic sound tide. Quick, retreat. We can't fight it head on. An ancient angel couldn't help but shout and order the angels to retreat. The angels also felt the power blasting towards them. It was invincible and could destroy everything in its path. It was just like the demonic sound tide that they had encountered countless times in the past. They had originally thought that the power here was heaven's might, the power of nature, and ordinary people couldn't use it. However, this power had been grasped by a human sage. It was simply shocking. However, it was already too late when they said these words. Moreover, the speed of the chaotic, demonic sound that erupted from the bell of chaos was even more terrifying. It surpassed the speed of light and struck the angels in an instant. Boom! In just an instant, the chaotic, demonic sound bombarded the bodies of the ancient angels, and a terrifying, destructive power erupted. It was earth-shattering and shattered the void. No! The ancient angels widened their eyes. They discovered that they couldn't withstand the chaotic, demonic sound, even with their domain of creation and their many magic treasures. In fact, the chaotic, demonic sound even penetrated their internal organs and attacked their souls. It was extremely destructive. Dong! 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 In the next second, the dozens of ancient angels didn't even have the strength to fight back. Their bodies were instantly shattered like watermelons. Even their souls were turned into dust in an instant. All the ancient angels were killed by the bell of chaos with just one strike. It displayed a tyrannical and unparalleled power. The void in all directions was shaken and cracked, creating countless spatial cracks and cracking sounds. The 3 ancient angels also couldn't withstand the chaotic, demonic sound. They were directly blasted away and coughed up blood in midair. Their internal organs were severely injured and blood spurted out of their mouths as if it was free. Although they weren't killed like the ancient angels, they didn't feel good either. They were severely injured and their bodies smashed through mountains one after another. They were sent flying for tens of thousands of kilometers. With a few thuds, their bodies smashed into a huge mountain, causing the mountain to split into pieces. Countless cracks also appeared on the ground due to the violent force. One could imagine how terrifying the world-destroying sound from the Bell of Chaos was. It was simply world-shattering. It seems like the power of the Bell of Chaos is a little beyond my imagination after it's upgraded to a supreme sacred artifact. Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. Although he had used the Bell of Chaos a little before, he hadn't used all his strength. He only knew that its power was much stronger than before. However, he had yet to test the limits of the Bell of Chaos's power. Even if he killed dozens of primordial angels now, it would only be a small test. It wouldn't be considered raising the Bell of Chaos's power to its limit. Even so, he was still shocked by the power of the Bell of Chaos. He didn't expect it to reach such a level. It seemed like the top-notch Sound Rune Stone in the secret realm of Sound Rune Mountain had greatly increased the power of the Bell of Chaos. Chapter 2704. Whoosh! Xiaoping waved his hand and collected the corpses of the primordial angels. After all, if the Tree of World were to devour them, it would definitely be able to produce fruit of creation. Every fruit of creation was a priceless treasure. Therefore, every primordial angel corpse was extremely valuable and could not be let go of easily. Damn human! How dare you kill so many of our saints? You're asking for it. I'm going to kill you. When the three primordial angels saw this, they were so shocked that their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. If looks could kill, Xiaoping would have died 1,000 times over. He would not have been able to survive at all. Kill! The golden primordial angel was even more furious. So many of their primordial angels have been killed. Even for the angels, this was an unimaginable loss. Heavy losses were not enough to describe how tragic this was. If they did not kill this human saint, the angels would probably suffer a great loss. Moreover, the other party was a human, one of the top races. If the other party escaped, they would not be able to take revenge. Therefore, they wanted to kill this human saint completely. They had to destroy even his soul. Boom! In an instant, the golden primordial angel took out a treasure. It was a supreme sacred weapon, the Spear of Judgment. The golden spear appeared in the void, as if a god had appeared in the mortal world. It shone with endless golden light and was covered with densely packed angel runes. The moment the golden spear appeared, time and space within a radius of billions of kilometers seemed to have stopped. It was as if it was the center of a vortex, a supreme existence that judged everything. This was one of the angels' clan treasures, the Spear of Judgment. Once this golden spear appeared, it meant that wherever the angels pointed, the enemy would definitely die. With this golden spear in hand, it was equivalent to holding the authority of the angels. It judged the sins of all living beings and judged the life and death of all living beings. It was almost like controlling everything. Originally, even a primordial saint would not be able to unleash the power of such a powerful supreme sacred weapon. However, they mobilized 3 primordial angels. Using the world power of 3 primordial angels, they could unleash 90% of the power of the Spear of Judgment. Sage of the human race, you must die today. Even if all the gods and Buddhas were to descend, they wouldn't be able to save you. The golden primordial angel bellowed. Wielding the Spear of Judgment, it activated the power of the world and completely unleashed the power of this peerless saint artifact. The spear shot towards Xiaoping. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the Spear of Judgment emitted endless golden light and endless mist. The golden light gathered together and condensed into a single point. It was compressed, 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 and compressed again. In the depths of the countless golden lights, there seemed to be the voices of countless angels and believers praying. They buzzed and triggered the supreme power in the depths of the universe. A supreme voice rang out one after another. Sinner, 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 judgment, judgment, judgment. All the sinners who have disobeyed and insulted the Lord disappear from this world and turn into dust. What? Xiaoping's pupils constricted, and he couldn't help but feel shocked. He felt as if he had been targeted by the spear of judgment, and it faintly contained a trace of the laws of karma. It was as if he had been determined to be judged. He was a sinner filled with sin and judged guilty by the many angels. Even if he hid at the ends of the world, the holy light would still judge him. This was the terror of the spear of judgment. Once the enemy was killed, this power wouldn't disappear, even if he fled to the ends of the universe. Although it didn't completely control the laws of karma like the reincarnation brush, it still grasped a trace of the laws of karma. It also contained the laws of holy light, destruction, tracking, karma, judgment, and so on. This also made the spear of judgment a stabilizing force for the angels. If they encountered a traitor of the angels, they could use the spear of judgment to kill them, even if they hid at the ends of the universe. At this moment, the three primordial angels were furious. They used all their strength to activate the spear of judgment. With the power of angel judgment, they had to kill Xiaoping completely. Vaguely, Xiaoping also felt great danger. If he was hit by the golden light of judgment, even if he didn't die this time, he would probably be seriously injured on the spot. But at this moment, the bell of chaos buzzed and transmitted a warm current. It seemed to be telling Xiaoping that there was no need to worry. I see. Can you block the power of the spear of judgment? Xiaoping immediately sensed the message from the bell of chaos. Although the bell of chaos still didn't have a complete artifact spirit, even after advancing to a peerless saint artifact, it had a weak consciousness and could transmit its own consciousness. The reason why it was so difficult for the bell of chaos to develop consciousness was probably because its main material was a piece of chaotic scarlet iron. This was a rare treasure in the universe, a treasure that stood at the peak of the universe. It had been eroded by the chaotic currents for billions of eons, making the chaotic scarlet iron a powerful material. Even the materials of ordinary god artifacts couldn't compare to it. It was precisely because it was so rare and precious that it was difficult for it to develop consciousness. It was impossible even if it advanced to a peerless saint artifact. It could only evolve into a complete life form if it advanced to the level of a god artifact. However, this also proved that the Bell of Chaos had endless potential. It was above other treasures. Thinking of this, he immediately relaxed. He circulated the power of creation in his body. The 9 purple palace spaces trembled, and the tremendous power of creation was completely channeled into the Bell of Chaos. Whoosh! Immediately, endless chaotic currents surged out from the depths of the Bell of Chaos. They seemed to form a huge screen that enveloped Xiaoping completely. The laws of chaos appeared in all directions, reducing all the power of space-time into nothingness. It completely severed the laws of karma, space-time, creation, world, and so on, turning it into a world of chaos. In an instant, the light of judgment from the spear of judgment shot over. It pierced through space-time and was extremely fast. It immediately bombarded the screen of chaos that the Bell of Chaos had erupted from. Dong! Even though the terrifying golden light of judgment seemed to possess boundless might, it was still helpless against the airflow formed by the boundless laws of primal chaos. It was easily blocked. Even though the light of judgment tried to connect with Xiaoping's thread of karma, it was destroyed by the chaotic currents. It was completely severed, causing the light of judgment to lose its target. This was the power of the Bell of Chaos after it advanced to a peerless saint artifact. The divine might from the Warhorn had formed the highest grade of sound stone, allowing the Bell of Chaos to possess the terrifying power of chaotic demonic sounds. It was simply invincible and could kill everything in its path. However, the main material of the Bell of Chaos, the chaotic scarlet iron, gave it supreme defensive power. It formed the laws of chaos, reducing time, space, creation, world, life and death, karma, and so on to nothingness. It reached the supreme realm of invincibility. This was the boundless power of the Bell of Chaos, which combined both offense and defense. Chapter 2705. At the moment, The bell of chaos was above Xiaoping's head. Endless chaotic currents were rushing around his body. He was simply invincible, and no power could break through the defense of the laws of chaos. Vaguely, his body emitted an aura that could suppress the endless void. He was invincible. Originally, he had forged this magic treasure to match the legendary Bell of Chaos. But as time passed, the Bell of Chaos he had forged had begun to resemble the legendary treasures of chaos. Although it hadn't reached the level of infinite mysteries and creation yet, it could freeze time and suppress space. It could reflect the attacks of any treasures and weapons, as well as the damage of all spells. It had both offensive and defensive capabilities, and it was undefeatable. But now, he could already see some clues. Even a primordial saint with a peerless sacred weapon would find it difficult to break through the supreme defense of the Bell of Chaos. Impossible. Our angel race's treasure, the Spear of Judgment, can't kill this human saint. It can't penetrate the defense of this peerless sacred weapon. What kind of joke is this? The golden primordial angel was dumbfounded. He simply couldn't believe his eyes. The other two primordial angels were the same. They were both dumbfounded and in disbelief. One had to know that the angel race's peerless sacred weapon, the Spear of Judgment, was one of the best killing weapons in the entire universe. The power of judgment made countless races tremble in fear, and it was seen as a taboo existence. A large part of the reason why the angel race would seek revenge for the smallest grievance and make countless races tremble in fear was because of the Spear of Judgment. If the Spear of Judgment targeted someone, they would be killed even if they hid to the ends of the universe. Time and space couldn't restrain the power of the Spear of Judgment. But now, there was a peerless sacred weapon that could easily resist the power of the Spear of Judgment and sever the karma lines of the Spear of Judgment. This was simply unbelievable. If they hadn't seen this with their own eyes, they would have thought this was a joke. How could there be a peerless sacred weapon that could restrain the Spear of Judgment? However, before they could figure out why such a thing had happened, Xiaoping rang the Bell of Chaos again. Chaotic demonic sound. In an instant, Xiaoping activated the Chaos Bell's ultimate attack. Previously, he had only activated the sound pattern laws within the Chaos Bell and stimulated the nomological power within the sound pattern stone. But at this moment, he had completely mobilized the primal chaos law and the sound pattern law. When the two powerful laws combined, the power that erupted was the primal chaos demonic sound. Clank, 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 the Bell of Chaos constantly shook, emitting a deafening sound. The sound of the bell was vast and mighty, causing the universe to shine, the world to lose its color, and the universe to shake. Waves of sound transmitted in all directions, covering hundreds of thousands of light years. When the primal chaos demonic sound erupted, it seemed as though all laws were shaken into a state of primal chaos. It destroyed the laws of time, space, creation, world, and other laws, turning everything into primal chaos. This power was boundlessly terrifying, even more terrifying than the demonic sound tide. The so-called demonic sound tide merely quaked all living creatures and matter to death, but the chaos demonic sound tide returned everything to chaos, returning it to its original state. The primal chaos demonic sound tide vaguely contained the laws of Tao begets one. One begets two begets three begets all things, and all things return to primal chaos. Of course, this was a most ideal power. The current Bell of Chaos was temporarily unable to achieve this, as it was only in its embryonic form. But even so, the power that erupted was enough to shock countless sages. As the owner of the Bell of Chaos, Xiaoping comprehended many things from it. He seemed to be able to pry into many primal chaos laws, sound pattern laws, space-time laws, creation laws, world laws, and so on. This was the apocalyptic demonic sound, and at the same time, the sound of creation. Not good. Hide. We can't fight it head-on. The golden primordial angel's expression changed drastically, and its hair stood on end. It felt a fatal killing intent. The power that erupted from this power was even more terrifying than the Judgment Spear. Hide? How do we hide? Where do we hide? There's no way to hide. The other primordial angel gritted its teeth. Although they also had the peerless divine spear of judgment, it was purely an offensive treasure. There was no way to defend against it. Even if they could use their own attacks to counter attacks, the result was already very clear. Even with their full strength, they were unable to break through the defense of this peerless divine spear. At this moment, they were simply at a loss. The speed of this chaotic demonic sound was simply too fast. It permeated the void, surpassing the speed of light. Even if they wanted to traverse through the void, they would not be able to escape. Moreover, under such terrifying power, the void in all directions trembled horribly. If they were to enter the void recklessly, they would probably be lost in the depths of the void forever, torn to death by the void storms, and plunged into spatial turbulence. There's no way to hide. We can only fight to the death with this human sage. I don't believe that a mere primordial sage with a peerless divine spear can kill us 3 primordial sages. There's no such ridiculous thing in the universe. The other primordial angel roared angrily. It did not believe that such a thing could happen. Lord, I beseech the world of heaven, descend to the mortal world and save the people of the world. In an instant, the golden primordial angel sang the hymn of heaven. The depths of the void also rang out with the hymn of heaven. It was as if the hymns of angels were reverberating in the depths of the void. Boom! In an instant, a world descended from the void. There seemed to be countless angels living in it. They knelt on the ground, praying and singing the hymn of heaven, praising the light. Countless beams of white holy light shot out, filling the void, exuding a holy, vast, and majestic aura. It was as if a mighty existence had descended from the void, suppressing time and space. Indistinctly, the projection of this world seemed to be the final destination of countless lives. There was no death, no sin, no pain. Everything was incomparably peaceful. The other 2 primordial angels glanced at each other and acted at the same time. They circulated the world energy in their bodies and imbued it into the body of the golden primordial angel, causing the world of heaven to descend. This was the true world domain of the 3 primordial angels, the world of heaven. It could be said that this was also their strongest move. They summoned the projection of the world of heaven to attack, guiding a portion of the world of heaven's power to erupt with world-destroying might. Of course, using such a move did not come without a price. It would greatly deplete their origin energy and soul energy, and they might not be able to recover even after hundreds of millions of years. But at this moment, they cannot care so much. If they could not withstand this attack, they would have no future. They might not even have the chance to recuperate. Chapter 2706. Rumble, the power of this heavenly world was also boundlessly terrifying. It seemed to be connected to the angel clan's headquarters in the depths of countless dimensions. Countless angels were chanting, and streams of faith power poured down to bless this heavenly world. Suddenly, the projection of this heavenly world seemed to solidify, as if it was reappearing in this universe. Beams of white holy light burst out, practically corroding the void in all directions, trying to assimilate this space-time into a world of holy light, turning it into an eternal heavenly world. It could be said that this was the strongest attack of the 3 primordial angels, enough to shake space-time and cause a space-time storm. Seeing this scene, all the sages trembled with fear, almost unable to resist. Bang! 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 But at this moment, the chaotic, demonic sound erupted from the bell of chaos and bombarded the heavenly world. It was like a demonic sound tide, stacking layer upon layer, wave upon wave, never stopping. The chaotic, demonic sound bombarded along the way, like a cosmic disaster born from the depths of chaos. This kind of power shattered all laws, causing countless laws to return to primal chaos. It seemed like the laws of time, space, creation, world, and so on were all reduced to nothingness under the power of primal chaos. They couldn't even resist for a moment. Not good. The 3 primordial angels' expressions changed drastically. When they heard the chaotic demonic sound, their hearts sank. They knew that they had completely underestimated the power of this chaotic demonic sound. This kind of power was far beyond their imagination, like the might of a god. But it was already too late for them to realize this. Dong, dong, dong. The countless angel projections in the heavenly world were attacked by the demonic sound, and their entire bodies exploded like watermelons. In an instant, the countless angels were completely reduced to nothingness under the bombardment of the demonic sound, and the prayers of the heavenly hymn also completely disappeared. It was as if all living beings in this world had been obliterated in an instant. At the same time, the incomparably sturdy heavenly world couldn't withstand the power of the chaotic demonic sound at all, and it was immediately shattered. The entire world seemed to collapse at this moment, and countless cracks appeared in the world's laws, emitting cracking sounds. With a puff, the three primordial angels couldn't withstand the collapse of the world's laws, and the resulting backlash caused them to spit out a mouthful of blood. Their bodies were immediately heavily injured, and even their souls were torn apart by the chaotic demonic sound. With a boom, the bodies of the three primordial angels were also blasted into a bloody mist. The might of the chaotic demonic sound could simply sweep through everything, shattering the vacuum and causing everything to return to chaos. Even so, the three primordial angels weren't dead yet. Only a wisp of their remnant souls remained, wriggling in the void. At the same time, these wisps of remnant souls were also rapidly devouring the universe's origin energy, displaying the immortal body within them, seemingly restoring their angelic bodies at a speed visible to the naked eye. To a sage, the soul was the most important thing. Even if the body was smashed into pieces, as long as the soul was not destroyed, the body would quickly recover. Run quickly. Return to the angel race's headquarters immediately. We'll deal with them later. We can't fight them head-on. Damned human race saint. We will remember you. Just you wait. You will soon suffer the revenge of the angel race. You lowly human, you'll not have a good ending. Just you wait. The three primordial angels were startled and angered. But at this moment, they no longer had the mentality to contend against Xiaoping. They just wanted to escape from this place and quickly return to the angel race's headquarters. This terrifying human race, Saint, was no longer in existence that they could match up to. Right now, their intestines were green with regret. If they had known that this human race, Saint, was so terrifying, they wouldn't have provoked him. But now, it was too late for regrets. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, the remnant souls of the three primordial angels melted into the void in all directions, seemingly turning into rays of holy light as they tried to escape from this dangerous place. Indra finger. But at this moment, Xiaoping's eyes flashed with a cold glint. How could he let these three primordial angels escape? Doing so would be akin to releasing tigers back into the mountains. If he didn't get rid of them now, should he wait for them to bring reinforcements? In the blink of an eye, he circulated the power of creation within his body and blasted a finger at the three primordial angels. Suddenly, a terrifying mystic ability took the form of a spiral containing the laws of karma. Following the karma lines, it captured the aura of the three primordial angels and crushed over. Just like the judgment light of the judgment spear, it had already locked onto the aura of the three primordial angels. Even if they fled to the ends of the world, they would not be able to escape. No. Stop, damned human saint. Do you know who you're dealing with? Stop right now. We're primordial angels of the angel race, elders of the race. If you kill us, you'll definitely incite the hatred of the angel race. Are you trying to start a war between the two races? The three primordial angels were shocked and enraged. Their hair stood on end, and their eyes were wide open. They could feel death approaching, as if they were being judged by the god of death. Originally, when they used the judgment spear, they stood high and mighty, judging the sinners of the mortal world. But they never thought that one day they would be judged by others and be hunted down like stray dogs. Right now, they were simply putting on a brave front, trying to scare the human saint, letting him know how important they were to the angel race. That way, he wouldn't dare to take action. But Xiaoping didn't care about that. If he wanted to kill someone, not even the gods and Buddhas could stop him. Dong, dong, dong. In the next second, a dark golden finger blasted out from the depths of the void. With a light tap, it seemed as if time and space had stopped at this moment, causing ripples in the void. And this dark golden finger was like the finger of a god, lightly tapping on the remnant souls of the three primordial angels. Boom! With just this one attack, the bodies of the three primordial angels exploded in an instant. Even their souls were pierced by Indra's finger. Their entire souls and bodies exploded. Immediately, the three primordial angels let out extremely shrill cries, like pigs being slaughtered. But there was nothing they could do, and they had no power to resist. With a bang, the three primordial angels died in the secret realm of the Sound Pattern Mountain. They died without a complete corpse. The ground was also pierced by the finger, and a deep pit that spanned thousands of kilometers was formed. It seemed to have formed a deep valley, and the judgment spear in their hands fell, smashing hard on the ground. The strong impact also shattered mountains, causing the space to shatter and thousands of void cracks to appear. Chapter 2707. Whoosh! Xiaoping reached out and collected the three ancient angel corpses. They were three world fruits, and if the world tree consumed and refined them, it would definitely benefit greatly. Right, there's also a peerless saint weapon, the judgment spear. He looked at the judgment spear, which had fallen not too far away, and immediately reached out to grab it. Boom! But at that moment, the judgment spear blossomed with boundless white light. This white light pierced through the void, as if communicating with the great will of endless space-time. What? Xiaoping's figure flashed, and he quickly retreated, solemnly staring at the judgment spear in front of him. There was a boom, and the sky above the judgment spear tore open a space-time rift that spanned tens of millions of kilometers. It gave birth to a huge black hole that stretched to who knew how far out. At that moment, an eye suddenly appeared in the depths of the black hole. It was completely golden, cold, and emotionless, and seemed to contain boundless origin laws. The moment this golden eye appeared, space-time within hundreds of thousands of light-years came to a standstill. It was as if all laws had stopped working, and all space had solidified. The Lord's Eye. This was the first thought that came to Xiaoping's mind. He could sense how terrifying this eye was. It seemed to come from the deepest depths of the angel race, and with just a glance, it caused all the laws of creation to stop working. But the Lord's Eye didn't seem to be fully awake. It merely glanced at the judgment spear, and a terrifying, devouring power was produced. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the judgment spear trembled slightly, and it transformed into a beam of white light that instantly shot into the black hole, quickly disappearing from the void. Whoosh! The golden eye slowly turned, looking in all directions. It seemed to be staring at Xiaoping, but this only lasted for a moment. It seemed to be incomparably tired, and even opening its eyelids was incomparably difficult. There was a boom, and in the next second, the golden angel's eye closed, and the huge spatial rift in front of it rapidly healed, returning to its original state. The peerless saint weapon, the judgment spear, also disappeared from Xiaoping's sight. It actually ran away. What is that golden eye? Could it be the leader of the angel race? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. To be honest, the moment the golden eye appeared, he felt an almost unparalleled and terrifying power. Even the invincible saint did not give him such immense pressure. It was as if he was a supreme existence. Fortunately, the power did not seem to have awakened completely, so it did not pay attention to him. Otherwise, he would have been done for. The supreme saint artifact, the judgment spear, had been taken away by it as well. He could feel that the angel race was indeed unusual. It was worthy of being one of the most mysterious races in the universe. Its degree of mystery was probably more powerful than that of the dragon race, phoenix race, and other mythological beast races. After all, although the dragon race, phoenix race, and other mythological beasts lived in their own worlds most of the time, They would occasionally appear in the real universe to communicate with other races. Otherwise, how could the legend of the giant dragon spread across the universe? However, the angel race was different. They were too closed off and only spread their faith in various parts of the universe. They never interacted with other races and formed their own entity. Their origins were rather mysterious. If there's a chance, maybe I can go to the angel race's headquarters to take a look. Xiao Ping stroked his chin. He had always been incomparably curious about this race and seemed to be shrouded in mystery. Now that he had offended the angel race, he was afraid that he would definitely have to face them in the future. He had no choice but to make preparations in advance. Just as Xiao Ping was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and spoke to a part of the void. "Come out, ancient saint. You have been hiding in that place for so long. Could it be that you are still not willing to come out?" He looked indifferently at the concealed space-time in the distance. In fact, he had discovered Gu Rulai, who was hiding nearby. Although Gu Rulai felt that his concealment ability was very strong, he could not hide from Chu Li's hell Golden Crow Eye. During the battle, just now, Chu Li had not used his full strength from start to finish. A part of his strength was to guard against Gu Rulai's sneak attack. If Gu Rulai dared to make a move, Chu Li would teach him an unforgettable lesson. However, Gu Rulai seemed to be apprehensive about something and did not appear from start to finish. This also made Chu Li unable to find an excuse to flare up. Whoosh! At this moment, a ripple appeared in the distance, and Gu Rulai's figure immediately walked out. He was like a spring breeze as he said, "Saint Fengdu, I'm truly sorry for what happened just now. I saw you fighting intensely with many angels, so I didn't want to disturb your battle. I didn't want to disturb Saint Fengdu and cause huge trouble for you. I hope Saint Fengdu doesn't mind. I didn't mean to hide." "Hee, who would believe you? Do you really think I'm a fool?" Xiao Ping sneered in his heart and looked down on Gu Rulai. He reckoned that this brat was hiding nearby to find a chance to sneak attack him. It was a pity that Gu Rulai couldn't find a flaw in him, so he didn't make a move. "Oh, so that's the case. I didn't expect Ancient Saint to have such thoughts. I almost thought that you were hiding nearby to launch a sneak attack on me." Xiao Ping smiled. "Saint Fengdu is mistaken. Even if I have the guts, I'm afraid I don't have the ability. Just now, Saint Fengdu displayed his divine might and killed 3 ancient angels and dozens of ancient angels. It truly broadened my horizons. I'm afraid even I, Gu Rulai, won't be a match for Saint Fengdu. I'm truly impressed." Gu Rulai smiled. "It's just that we were surrounded and attacked by many saints of the angel race. Saint Fengdu was the first to escape, saying that he wanted to call for reinforcements. I believed him and waited for a few days, but the reinforcements of the human race still didn't come. I almost became depressed from waiting." There was a dagger hidden in his smile. He was still begrudging what had happened previously. This scoundrel clearly had the ability to challenge those on a higher level and had extraordinary battle power. Yet he had pretended to be a pig to eat the tiger, throwing him to be chased by a bunch of angels. It was obvious that he wanted to kill him. One could well imagine how furious he was now. If it wasn't for him being extremely shrewd, he would probably want to bite this scoundrel to death. "Ancient Saint, you're mistaken. Back then, I was indeed looking for reinforcements, but I didn't expect to encounter the void turbulence when I was escaping. I got lost in an instant and was delayed for a few months before coming out. This delayed the time to seek help. Now that I know you're in danger, I rushed back without stopping," Xiao Ping said carelessly. Bulsh asterisk T. Hearing this, even though Gu Rulai was extremely shrewd, he was so angry that he fainted. "You even encountered the void turbulence? Why didn't you say that you had a stomachache and that your stomach hadn't recovered after a few months of diarrhea? You didn't even have a draft when you lied. You were simply lying with your eyes wide open, and you still rushed back without stopping. It had already been a few King months. The daylilies were already cold. If he was still waiting for this brat's reinforcements, he wouldn't know how many times he would have died. Honestly speaking, even though he had lived for countless eras, he had never seen such a thick-skinned ancient saint. He was simply shameless. Lying was as easy as eating and drinking." Chapter 2708. But then again, Gu Rulai was still incomparably astonished by the strength Xiaoping had displayed. Even though he had lived for so many years, he had never seen an ancient saint with such tyrannical battle prowess. It was not that he had never seen an ancient saint with a peerless saint weapon, and he was one of them. However, with the power of creation of an ancient saint, it was impossible for him to unleash the full power of a peerless saint weapon. It was like a child holding a peerless treasure sword. How could it compare to an adult elite warrior holding a peerless treasure sword? It was already not bad if they could unleash 1% of the treasure's power. It could only be said that even without that peerless saint weapon, the battle prowess of the Fengdu saint was still rather terrifying. However, with this mysterious peerless saint weapon, the Fengdu saint was like a tiger that had grown wings. Truth be told, when Gu Rulai first saw Xiaoping appear, he did have the thought of launching a sneak attack to take revenge. However, as the battle progressed, he realized that every time he wanted to launch a sneak attack, his sixth sense would give him a strong warning. He must not attack, or else he would definitely die. He believed in his battle instincts, so he suppressed the thought of attacking. In the end, Gu Rulai finally saw the terrifying battle prowess of this brat. He took out that peerless saint weapon and burst forth with chaotic demonic sounds, which simply swept through everything and killed a bunch of ancient saints. This kind of power made even him raise his eyebrows and feel apprehensive. This also made him extremely wary of this incomparably mysterious Fengdu saint, raising him to the highest level of danger. Not only was this scoundrel thick-skinned, treacherous, and shameless, he was also very powerful. He was a bad egg that was not easy to deal with. Therefore, he suppressed the thought of launching a sneak attack in the depths of his heart. Even though his whereabouts had been discovered by the other party, Gu Rulai didn't feel that it was too surprising. According to his sixth sense, this brat had probably known that he was hiding here from the start and had been on guard against him at all times. So that's how it is. Thinking about this, Gu Rulai smiled. I didn't expect Fengdu Saint to have such an encounter. It seems like I've really blamed him wrongly. Previously, I thought that Fengdu Saint was a despicable person who would abandon his teammates and escape alone. So it turns out that it was all a misunderstanding. This explains everything. Yes, everything is just a misunderstanding. Xiaoping's skin was thicker than the city walls, and he acted as though he didn't understand Gu Rulai's words. However, I didn't expect Ancient Saint to still be in the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain. This is unexpected. I thought you had already run away. How could I have left Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm? I haven't even waited for Saint Fengdu to bring me into the core region of Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm. I wonder where Saint Fengdu went during this period of time. Could he have obtained some treasure in some void turbulence? Gu Rulai narrowed his eyes and stared at Xiaoping. To be honest, he was extremely suspicious that the supreme grade saint artifact on the kid right now was a treasure he had obtained from the core region of the Soundline Mountain secret plane. Otherwise, how could it be so powerful? Most importantly, the sound of annihilation from the Peerless Saint artifact was similar to the chaotic demonic sound and the demonic sound tide from the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm. If this wasn't a treasure from the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain, he wouldn't believe it. Furthermore, the reason why the kid had intentionally framed him and the angel race to fight was probably because he wanted to take the chance to delay the progress of him and the angel race so that the kid could safely enter the core region of the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain. If that was the case, it proved that the guy really knew all the secrets of the secret realm and had obtained endless benefits from it. Thinking about this, his heart itched even more. After all, the core region of Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm was a terrifying secret realm that had killed 4 invincible saints. The value of the treasures in it was imaginable. Which saint wouldn't drool over them? Even Gu Rulai, who was used to seeing treasures, was no exception. How could I have obtained any treasures? I was just casually strolling around. I'm afraid Ancient Saint has obtained more treasures than me during this period of time, Xiaoping said with a smile, not revealing anything. Gu Rulai couldn't do anything. If the kid didn't want to say anything, he couldn't force him either. He said, since that's the case, and now that the group of angels has been destroyed, Why don't we enter the core area of the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret plane again? Didn't you say that the two of us can obtain the treasures inside if we work together? No, next time. The battle with the many primordial angels just now has injured my body. I'm afraid I need to return to Black Yellow City to recuperate for a period of time. I don't have the energy to enter the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain for the time being. Xiaoping said. Wulsh *T. Looking at Xiaoping's righteous expression, the corner of Gu Rulai's mouth twitched. He couldn't wait to give this scoundrel a punch. He had seen the scene of the battle clearly. How could this scoundrel have any injuries? With that tyrannical, peerless Saint artifact, he was simply killing gods and devils in his way. He had smashed dozens of primordial angels and 3 primordial angels along the way. He was invincible. Now, he actually said that he was injured. He didn't even blink when he lied. It was obvious that this kid had already obtained boundless benefits from the core region and didn't want to bring him along anymore. He thought that he had no value anymore, so he lied and refused. To be honest, if he had grasped the secrets of a secret realm and could obtain a large amount of treasures, he naturally wouldn't be willing to share them with others. But even so, he clearly knew that the treasures were right in front of him, but he couldn't obtain them. This kind of depressing feeling was simply indescribable. If it was possible, Gu Rulai simply wanted to use force and capture this kid, torture him, and force out all of his secrets. But after weighing their strengths, he gave up. If he was still the invincible sage from before, a demigod expert, he might have a chance. But now that his cultivation was at the primordial sage realm, it would be slightly troublesome. He didn't have absolute confidence that he could defeat this monster with a peerless saint artifact. I see. That's truly a pity. I hope we'll have a chance to work together again in the future. Gu Rulai took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the grievance in his heart. Don't worry, there will definitely be a chance. You and I are both sages of the human race, and we're all brothers. If we don't take advantage of our own people, do we have to take advantage of outsiders? Xiaoping laughed. Fengdu Sage is still so forthright. I'll wait and see. That's right. I remember that there's a pretty good restaurant in Xianwang City with delicious food. Why don't we go there for a meal? Gu Rulai also laughed heartily and invited them. I didn't expect ancient sage to be so generous to actually treat us. In that case, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Xiaoping said casually. Hearing this, the corner of Gu Rulai's mouth twitched. He had only said that they would have a meal. When did he say that he would treat them? This scoundrel was simply a miser. Even if he died, he would still take advantage of him. However, there was nothing he could do. Luckily, a meal didn't cost much. The two of them were very enthusiastic and flattered each other, as though they were old friends at first sight. They were just short of cutting off a chicken's head and burning yellow paper to become sworn brothers. Chapter 2709. A day later, Xiaoping and Gu Rulai returned to Xianwang City, and the two of them had a meal before going their separate ways. Master, this Gu Rulai is incomparably sinister, and leaving him alive would be a huge problem. Why didn't you take the chance to kill him in Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm? The Green Bull couldn't resist asking. Honestly speaking, this Gu Rulai was too dangerous. He was full of schemes and had many tricks up his sleeves. Anyone who provoked such an enemy would find it incomparably difficult to deal with. He felt that he should take the chance to get rid of him. No, I wanted to do it at the start, but after thinking about it, I decided to give up. Xiaoping shook his head. Why? The Green Bull was filled with suspicions. Because I can't kill him. Xiaoping said seriously. Can't kill him? The Green Bull was stunned. Xiaoping nodded his head. That's right, he can't be killed. This person is the saint of creation of the ancient immemorial era, and he could fool so many saints by faking his death. He could even retain his memories and reincarnate. How could such a person be killed so easily? Even if we killed him now, he would probably be reborn in another place. He might even hide in the dark and use all kinds of schemes to catch people off guard. Since that's the case, we might as well let him live. That way, we can still find out what he does normally. So I see. Hearing this, the Green Bull couldn't help but nod his head in agreement. This Gu Rulai's divine art was simply too powerful. Just the divine art of reincarnation was enough to put him in an invincible position. This divine art was even more terrifying than the undying body of a saint. It could be considered an undying body because even if he was killed, the other party would reincarnate and be reborn in another place. Furthermore, with his abilities, no matter where he was reborn, he could easily return to his peak. It was only a matter of time. Just killing Gurulai here wouldn't be of any use and would instead alert the enemy. But if that's the case, wouldn't no one be able to kill Gurulai? At this moment, the Green Bull also felt that this Gurulai was extremely troublesome. He was completely different from the enemies they had met before. His survival abilities were simply too strong, and he couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as the other saints. He felt that if he met such an enemy, he wouldn't know how to defeat him. After all, the other party had the divine art of undying. Once he died, he could reincarnate and start over countless times. Ancient Rilai could endure countless failures. However, it was different for his side. If they failed once, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. It could be said that Gurulai was undefeatable from the start. To him, even if he failed in this lifetime, he could just start again in the next lifetime. This is too terrifying. Just what kind of fortuitous encounter did this Gurulai have to actually possess such an ability? This is simply unimaginable. Corinne couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He was also experienced and knowledgeable, but he had never met such a terrifying saint. Even the saints of the invincible realm were far inferior to this person. No, it's not that I can't kill him. If the reincarnation brush in my body can be completely unsealed, I can unleash the true power of the reincarnation brush. With one stroke, I can completely annihilate his countless pieces of soul along the countless karmic lines. Then, he will die in the samsara, never to be resurrected. A cold light flashed in Xiaoping's eyes. The divine artifact, reincarnation brush in his body had such an ability. This divine artifact was specialized in killing the kind of immortal devil god. It eradicated them from the root so that they had nowhere to hide. It shattered the samsara and destroyed the karmic lines. However, for the time being, he couldn't remove all the seals on the reincarnation brush, nor could he unleash the full power of the reincarnation brush. Therefore, for the time being, he wouldn't act rashly and let Gurulai continue to live. Indeed, the power of the reincarnation brush is beyond imagination. It's simply not a magic treasure of the mortal world. Even among the divine artifacts, I'm afraid it's one of the strongest divine artifacts. Corinne and Green Ox couldn't help but nod. They felt that the reincarnation brush, at its peak, could really kill this demon. However, at present, the reincarnation brush could only unleash a portion of its power. It was still far from its peak. All right, let's go back first. The harvest this time is great. I don't know what I've plundered from those invincible saints. Xiaoping temporarily put the matter of Gurulai aside. He first returned to his manor in Xianwang City. Anyway, Gurulai couldn't pose much of a threat to him for the time being. After more than 10 days, world-shaking news came from the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain. There were saints heading to the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain. They unintentionally wanted to explore the core region and investigate the secrets within. Unexpectedly, there were saints who discovered the core region of Sound Pattern Mountain. The God's Barrier had completely collapsed and disintegrated, revealing the situation within the core region. When this news spread, it immediately shocked the entire Xianwang continent and even the entire universe. Many saints heard of this news. After all, the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain was a famous place among the saints. Moreover, this place had once lost 4 invincible saints. It was enough for countless saints to think about this place and think that there was definitely an incredible treasure inside. Therefore, countless saints headed to the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain to explore. However, when they arrived, they were all dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded and in disbelief. Damn it, what's going on? Why is there nothing in the core region of Sound Pattern Mountain? Where are the treasures? Where did the treasures go? A saint scolded. Originally, he wanted to come to this place and take the chance to snatch the treasures. However, Who would have thought that after he entered this place, he couldn't find any treasures? There wasn't even a stone. It was as if he had been robbed. The place was even cleaner than his face. It was like plucking feathers from a goose. He had never seen such a clean mountain before. It was as if it had been cleaned by someone. Could it be that the core region of Sound Pattern Mountain is a scam? A scam that has spanned countless years? A saint couldn't help but say, "Bullsh asterisk T." A saint at the side sneered. If it's really a scam, how did those 4 invincible realm saints die? Aren't those saints who died in the demon sound tide wronged? Also, how did the sound pattern stones come to be in this secret realm? He asked a series of rhetorical questions. Many saints were speechless. They also didn't know how to explain this. If it was a scam, didn't those saints who died here die wronged? At this moment, an Archean saint spoke and made such a judgment. It seems that there's already a saint who got here first and took all the treasures in this place. That's why this happened. Chapter 27:10. What? As soon as he said that, the faces of the saints changed. Actually, they had also thought of this possibility, but they still did not dare to believe it, so they did not bring up this idea. Right, a saint must have gotten here before us. Another primordial saint nodded. Originally, the divine barrier here was extremely sturdy. Saints below the invincible realm could not enter. After hundreds of millions of eras, there were no problems with the god's barrier. Even though very few saints reached this place, some would occasionally come in to try their luck. But such a strong god's barrier suddenly disappeared. Someone must have obtained the treasure here, which caused the divine barrier to collapse and lose its source of energy. He also voiced out his speculation. That is indeed possible. Another primordial saint said in a low voice, "Just now, I checked the surroundings and found that the restriction formations of the gods were engraved in all directions. It seems to be a relic from the era of the previous universe. There should have been a huge mountain here called Sound Pattern Mountain, which is the source of the demonic sound tide. But now, it has disappeared without a trace. Someone must have taken it away." His words were resolute and decisive. The saints could not help but nod. They had to admit this. Who exactly took away the treasure in the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain? And what treasure is hidden in the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain? A saint could not help but ask. Because a secret realm that could kill an invincible saint and was related to the gods of the era of the previous universe. One could imagine how precious it was. They all wanted to know the secret inside, like crazy. I'm not sure. I'm afraid that a saint discovered the secret of the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain and took away the treasure without a trace. Only when the restriction formations here collapsed will we have a chance to find out the truth. A saint said in a low voice, "Can we find out who came to the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain?" A saint could not help but ask. He wanted to find out which saint had entered this place. If he knew the name list, he might be able to find the person who had obtained the treasure. Many sages were tempted as well, as the treasures in the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain were simply too mysterious and tempting. It was worth it no matter how high the price was. You want to find out which sage has entered the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm? How are we going to investigate? This is a public place, and there are no so-called records at all. Saints of any race can come in, and to find the other party is like looking for a needle in a haystack. One of the primordial saints sneered. He thought that it was useless. It's a pity that the treasure of the secret realm of Sound Pattern Mountain was snatched away by a mysterious sage. I wonder who the lucky one is. I'm really curious. If one really obtains such a treasure, one's name will shake the universe sooner or later. At that time, one will know who snatched away the peerless treasure from the Sound Pattern Mountain's mystic realm. That's indeed the case. Let's wait and see then. Seems like there are only 9 out of the top 10 dangerous secret grounds left in the Xianhuang continent. How unexpected. Many sages discussed among themselves. Not long after, the news of the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm collapsing and the treasure in the core region being snatched away by the mysterious sage spread across the entire universe. Countless sages knew about it. The sages of all the major races were guessing which sage had snatched away the treasure and how much impact the treasure would have on the situation of the entire universe. However, because the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm was too mysterious, there wasn't much news about it. They didn't even know what treasure it was. Therefore, they only discussed it for a while. At this moment, in a certain mansion in the Xianhuang city of the Xianhuang continent, Gu Rulai was at. Interesting. The core region of the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm actually collapsed, and the treasures inside have been plundered by someone. Not even a hair is left. It seems like this is definitely done by Sage Fiend. Gu Rulai's eyes revealed a glimmer of brilliance. He was 100% sure that this was done by the mysterious Sage Fiend. Also, that extremely powerful supreme grade sacred weapon, Bell of Chaos, could also be a supreme treasure obtained from the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm. Therefore, this magic treasure was able to explode with such earth-shattering power. With the Bell of Chaos in his hand, that brat could sweep through everything. Along the way, he had smashed dozens of ancient sages and suppressed 3 ancient sages. His combat power was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. Even the supreme grade sacred weapon, the picture of creation of heavens, couldn't be compared to it. No matter what, the picture of creation of heavens wasn't a purely battle-type supreme grade sacred weapon. From a certain perspective, it was only a support-type supreme grade sacred weapon. Therefore, its combat power wasn't considered outstanding. Should I leak this news? If the other sages knew that this brat had obtained the treasure from the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm, I'm afraid this brat would be badly battered and cause huge trouble. Gu Rulai narrowed his eyes. If he were to spread this news, from the second day onwards, Sage Fiend would become the target of public criticism. Countless sages would want to find out about the treasures on him. Even invincible sages would covet him, which would cause huge trouble for him. At the same time, he could also vent his anger. No. Forget it. This is just a small trick. It can't do anything to him at all. Instead, this method will alert the enemy and make him vigilant. In just a short while, Gu Rulai gave up on this method because it was just an unorthodox method. Although this matter would indeed cause trouble for the brat, it was only a small trouble. With that supreme grade sacred weapon, the Bell of Chaos, this fellow's combat power was invincible in the primordial realm. He could easily crush any primordial sage. If ordinary sages dared to cause trouble, they would be courting death. As for the sages who had reached the invincible realm, they were also the patriarchs of the human race. They wouldn't covet the treasures of the younger generation. This was also the agreement between the patriarchs of the human race. If Sage Fiend stayed in the human race's encampment, the sages of the other races wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Therefore, this move could only annoy him and not kill him. Of course, most importantly, he also wanted the treasure on Sage Fiend. If this matter was leaked, then there would be too many sages fighting for the treasure with him. If he didn't leak it, then he would be the only sage who knew this secret. In other words, if he found a chance and killed Sage Fiend, then all the treasures from the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm would belong to him. From then on, no one would know who obtained the treasures from the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm. Therefore, there wasn't much benefit in leaking this matter. Instead, there would be endless trouble. The treasures from the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm definitely belong to me, Gu Rulai. Gu Rulai clenched his fists tightly. He was determined to get it. Chapter 2711. In another place, the angel race's headquarters was a mysterious place. At this moment, many ancient angels and demigod-level angels were gathered together. They had also received the news that the plan of the angel race had failed completely. To think that after so many years of planning, it still failed. Is this what they call man proposes, heaven disposes? A three-eyed angel said, "Shut up." Another angel wielding a long spear bellowed furiously, "Wasting so much of our angel race's resources and time, expending so much effort, and even causing many of our race's elites to die tragically in the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret realm. How can you say that man proposes but God disposes? The human saint who killed our elites, I will definitely not let him off." A terrifying killing intent exploded from his body and surged into the clouds. The surrounding angels didn't dare to speak and just trembled. They knew how furious this demigod-level angel was. Based on the intelligence, the one who killed our race is a human saint. His name is Feng, and he is an immemorial ancient realm late-stage saint. It is said that he has a helper beside him called Gurulai. He is an immemorial ancient realm pinnacle saint with extraordinary battle prowess. A bespectacled angel sat at the side. During this period of time, the angels had also been gathering information. According to the memories of the dead angels before they died, as well as a lot of information, they found out who the murderer of the angels was. Impossible. Another golden-haired angel frowned. This time, our race sent 3 immemorial ancient realm pinnacle angels and dozens of immemorial ancient realm angels. Other than an invincible saint, who could kill them so easily? They didn't even have time to send a distress signal. If not for Master's connection with the Judgment Spear and being able to summon it back in time, even the Judgment Spear would have been lost. Such a loss is immeasurable. He didn't believe that a mere immemorial ancient realm saint could wipe out so many elites of the angel race. It was just a joke. Could it be that Gurulai? However, Gurulai is indeed a monster genius of the human race. He reached immemorial ancient realm in such a short period of time and is said to be one of the human saints with the highest chance of becoming a demigod. His battle prowess is not to be underestimated. Could he be the mastermind and Saint Feng is the scapegoat? An angel guessed. No, this matter was indeed done by the Feng saint. It has already been confirmed. The thing that killed so many of our clan's elite angels was a peerless sacred weapon in the hands of the Feng saint. It's called the Bell of Chaos. The bespectacled angel said in a low voice, "The might of this peerless saint artifact is boundlessly terrifying, and it's able to play the sound of annihilation, shatter time and space, shake the universe, and annihilate everything. In fact, this magic treasure can even cause a demonic sound tide. It's like the might of the heavens. My clan's elites couldn't withstand it and were all killed by the demonic sound. Their corpses and souls shattered. It revealed a lot of information. A supreme saint artifact, the Bell of Chaos? Just what kind of arcane treasure is this? Why have I never heard of it before? Furthermore, it can cause a demonic sound tide. Could it be related to the Sound Pattern Mountains arcane realm?" The blonde angel narrowed his eyes. "It's not that it's impossible, but it's definitely related. I suspect that Saint Feng obtained this magic treasure from the core region of the Sound Pattern Mountains secret plane. That's why it possesses the boundless power to kill my clan's elites." The bespectacled angel said, "That's impossible. My clan has spent countless years, but it's still difficult to enter the core region of the Sound Pattern Mountain. Only a demigod-level angel from the primordial era had once forced his way in. Unfortunately, he has already perished within, and there's no news of him ever since. Since then, it's been extremely difficult for us to enter. If even we can't do it, how can that human do it?" The blonde angel didn't believe in such a thing. Nothing is impossible. The universe is vast, and there are all sorts of strange things. Perhaps this human saint has grasped a divine ability that we can't even imagine, or perhaps he's extremely lucky and discovered a certain flaw in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret plane. In any case, he has indeed entered the core region, and he might even have obtained the God of War's inheritance. The bespectacled angel said firmly, "What?" Hearing this, the eyes of the angels present revealed a frightening glint. The reason why their clan had been staying in the Sound Pattern Mountain's secret plane and not leaving was because they knew that this secret plane contained the God of War's inheritance. This was also the God's inheritance that they desired the most. Once they obtained it, it would definitely greatly increase the strength of their clan. However, this plan had failed, and the God of War's inheritance might even be obtained by the human saint. How could they accept such a thing? You must be joking. How is such a thing possible? Even if he really broke through the restriction array inside, it wouldn't be that easy for him to obtain the God of War's inheritance. An angel said, "At first, I also thought that it was impossible. However, this matter has proven that the restriction array of the Sound Pattern Mountain secret plane had collapsed not long ago, and there's nothing inside. The God of War's inheritance must have been snatched away by this Fiend saint. The bespectacled angel felt that there was no doubt about this matter. The angels had nothing to say because this was an ironclad fact. There was no need to doubt or refute it. However, when they thought about how the treasure that they had worked hard for countless years without being able to obtain was so easily snatched away by a human saint, the grievance in their hearts was simply indescribable. If that's the case, why don't we release this matter and let the human race become the target of public criticism? After all, this is the inheritance of a god. It will definitely cause that Fiend saint to be badly battered, and he will be hunted down by countless saints. The golden-haired angel gave his suggestion. After all, the human race is a peak race. How could they surrender so easily? Moreover, the invasion of the demons from the abyss is imminent. Many of the invincible sages do not want to have internal strife at this time. Everything should be done in a stable manner. This matter will definitely be suppressed, and there will not be any ripples. The three-eyed angel said in a low voice. He felt that this plan was useless. If it was any other time, the various races might fight over this matter, and they might even start a war. However, the demons from the abyss were about to invade the real universe. Compared to the demons from the abyss, everything else would be put aside. No one was allowed to destroy the unity at this time. After all, any saint from any race could obtain the treasure and the inheritance of a god. If any saint wanted to snatch the inheritance, the various races would die in internal strife sooner or later. Under the suppression of a demigod, no saint from any race would stand out at this time. Damn it, this Fiend saint has appeared in a good time. The golden-haired angel clenched his fists. If this was before the invasion of the demons from the abyss, countless saints from the various races would have fought over this matter. However, the situation had completely changed now. The central cosmos, which was originally in the middle of a war, was now at war. The battles between saints had decreased by a lot and were no longer as intense as before. Chapter 27:12. If that's the case, then we can only watch helplessly as this sage Fiend gets the inheritance of the god of war and kills the elites of our angel race. However, we can't do anything to him. An angel gritted his teeth and was unwilling to accept this. That's right. This human sage has obtained the inheritance of the god of war. In the future, his cultivation will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. He will become a demigod or even a god. At that time, will we still be able to kill him? The golden-haired angel said unwillingly. Fool, it's not that easy to become a demigod or even a god. The bespectacled angel sneered. Although there are very few sages who have obtained the inheritance of a god, it's not like there aren't any of them after so many years. Have you seen any sages who have ascended to become a god? The inheritance of a god is naturally precious. It can bring endless benefits to a sage and reduce many detours. However, it's not omnipotent. To become a god, one still needs to rely on the right time, place, and people. It's not that easy. I dare say that even if this sage Fiend has obtained the inheritance of the god of war, it will still take him billions of years to become an immemorial sage or even an invincible sage, not to mention becoming a god. In a short period of time, he won't be able to pose any major threat to our angel race. We can rest assured about this. He felt that there was no need to worry about this for the time being. Even so, billions of years is just a snap of a finger for a sage. It's only a matter of time before Sage Fiend becomes a huge threat to our angel race. The golden-haired angel said, "Of course we know about this. Therefore, we won't give him much opportunity to grow." The three-eyed angel's eyes flashed coldly. Our angel race will soon find a great opportunity. The demigod angels will directly attack and kill this Fiend. We must nip the danger in the bud. We definitely won't give him any time or opportunity to grow completely. A terrifying, murderous aura emanated from its body. Therefore, the matter of Sage Fiend obtaining the inheritance of the god of war needs to be kept a secret for the time being. We can't leak this matter out. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of all the races in the universe, including those races that survived from the previous universe era. Those old farts are all extremely troublesome and are all our competitors. The three-eyed angel clenched his fists. "We'll personally kill Fiend and take back the god of war's legacy. That way, the legacy will still belong to us angels. Right now, we're just temporarily entrusting the legacy to Fiend. There's nothing to worry about." "I see." The golden-haired angel nodded. He also understood the plan of the demigod angels. No wonder they did not agree to reveal this matter. Revealing it would not bring any benefits. Instead, it would attract the greed of countless old, undying beings. This would instead be a great hindrance to the angel clan's movements. "When you kill Fiend, remember to call me. I'll personally kill this fiend and pierce his soul and body. I'll even kill his entire clan." The angel wielding the spear was boiling with murderous intent. It shook the void and sent chills down one's spine. It was the demigod angel that loved to fight. The number of lives that had died in its hands was simply innumerable. It had once wielded a spear and destroyed worlds one after another. All existences that did not believe in the Lord had to die. All heretics would be burned to death on iron pillars. "Don't worry, it won't take too long." The three-eyed angel's eyes were cold and emotionless. A few days later, in the Xianhuang city, over the past few days, Xiaoping had been taking inventory of his many gains in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm. Other than the many treasures left behind by the God of War and a large number of high-quality sound pattern stones, there were also many other treasures. The most important treasures were naturally the 4 demigod experts that had died in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm. Although they had died in the Sound Pattern Mountain, the treasures on their bodies had been left behind. Even though these might not be all the treasures on their bodies, just a portion of them was enough to make countless saints drool. After all, the value of the treasures that could attract the attention of demigod experts was unimaginable. Firstly, there were those sage medicines that were billions of years old. This time, he had plundered 300 of them. As these sage medicines were stored in the spatial ring, time and space were in a still state. Therefore, these sage medicines did not show any signs of losing their medicinal potency. Instead, they were no different from billions of years ago. "We're rich, we're rich, we're rich this time." Seeing this, the green bull was extremely excited. Sandachira, Hellfire Lotus Seed, 7 Fantasy Green Spirit Saliva, Clear Heart 3-leaf grass, Buddha Heart Fruit, and so on. These are all sage medicines that are almost extinct in the universe. Their numbers can be counted on one hand. I didn't expect to find them on the bodies of these few invincible saints. "We're rich this time." He carefully counted these top-notch sage medicines. Every single one of them was priceless. They were treasures that could not be bought with money. They could probably only be exchanged with the bodies of invincible saints. In fact, they had to be treasures that could interest the invincible saints. Otherwise, it would be impossible to exchange for them. Moreover, these sage medicines were very active, as if they had just been plucked yesterday. Therefore, they could still survive and be planted in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. They could even use these sage medicines as a foundation to obtain more sage medicine seeds and expand the planting of the medicine field. Therefore, one could imagine how excited the green bull was right now. It cannot be described with words. This is indeed a good harvest. I didn't expect the spatial rings of these invincible saints to be so extraordinary. They have the effect of still time and space. I'm afraid these spatial rings were specially forged to store these sage medicines. Xiaoping was very satisfied, but the harvest this time was not just this. In addition to the sage medicines, there were also all kinds of cosmic-level ores that these demigod powerhouses had plundered. These were all precious ores that they had obtained after plundering secret realms in the universe for who knows how many years. And the degree of preciousness of these ores was no less than these sage medicines. Yin-Yang Astral Silver Sand, Cosmos Crimson Sun Iron, Crossing Light Crystal, Fairy Stone, Realm Stone, and so on. These are all incredible cosmic ores. These are also unique gems that are difficult to find. As expected of the invincible saints, they are really too rich. Corinne could not help but exclaim. He could see that these materials were basically top-notch ores for refining sage artifacts. Even the basic materials for many peerless sage artifacts were used in these materials. He did not know how much effort these invincible saints had spent to collect them, but now they had all benefited from it. It was simply a super windfall. Even if an invincible saint saw this scene, he would probably salivate and be completely envious. Chapter 27:13. If Xiao Jin were to devour these ores, her strength would probably rise to a new level. Xiao Ping rubbed his chin. He felt that Xiao Jin's strength had stagnated for a period of time. If she were to devour these universe ores, her cultivation would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. After all, the golden slime's evolution depended entirely on devouring universe ores. Without external resources, it would be very difficult for her to evolve. However, with these resources, she could evolve faster than anyone else. Of course, other than the sage medicine and the universe-grade ores, these 4 demigod powerhouses still had many unique treasures on them, the kind that would make countless sages drool. However, the treasure that Xiaoping was most excited about was the treasure on the demigod abyssal demon. It was a dark gold abyssal token. It was unknown what material was used to forge it, but even a peerless sage weapon would not be able to destroy it. The dark gold token was engraved with dense abyssal runes. It seemed to communicate with a certain dimensional space-time and connect to the deepest part of the abyss. In fact, he had also sent his divine sense into it in an attempt to find out more about the dark gold token. In the end, he discovered that the dark gold token seemed to contain a unique spatial coordinate that was connected to a certain abyssal continent. It seemed that by circulating the token's power, one could open up a passage to the abyss and enter the abyssal world. So that's how it is. Ever since the myriad races sealed the abyss world, the reason why these abyssal demons were able to escape from the abyss was probably because they had long mastered some unique and hidden spatial nodes. They temporarily hid this place and used it as a backdoor to leave and enter the modern universe. This demigod demon probably used this backdoor to enter the modern universe. Xiaoping came to a sudden realization. He finally understood the function of the dark gold token. Only with such a token could one pass the test of the abyssal will and enter the abyssal world, opening up a temporary passage to the abyssal world. Such tokens were rare, and only demigod demons had the right to obtain them. In fact, if this demigod demon had not been unlucky enough to die in the Sound Patter Mountain's secret realm, nobody would have been able to obtain this abyssal token from it. Can I use this token to enter the real abyssal world? Xiaoping touched his chin and was instantly tempted. To be honest, even though the abyss demons had fought against the myriad races in the primordial era, the myriad races didn't have a special understanding of the abyss demons. Even though some invincible sages had joined forces and fought their way into the abyssal world, they were unable to withstand the erosion of the abyssal energy before they could reach the deepest part. They quickly retreated. The sages only knew that the abyss world was made up of many abyss continents, but they didn't know anything else. Therefore, the myriad races in the heavens did not have a special understanding of the abyss demons. They only knew that these abyss demons were a vicious and evil race that saw the lives of the myriad races as food. Everyone had the right to kill them. The abyssal war is imminent, and a great calamity is about to descend. I'm afraid I need to find a chance to understand the abyssal demon race. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he felt that he had too little understanding of the abyss. Without understanding this opponent, if he were to fight rashly, he would definitely suffer heavy losses. He might even suffer a crushing defeat. Therefore, he had to find an opportunity to thoroughly understand this race. He had once entered the dragon world and understood this race that had come from the previous universe. He had once entered hell and understood the nether ghosts, demons, void monsters, and other terrifying races. Although he had also entered the abyss continent and killed many abyss demons, he did not know where these abyss demons came from or how they were born. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have such thoughts. However, his cultivation had already advanced to immemorial ancient late stage. With the bell of chaos in his hands, he could totally crush ancient sages. Unless he met a demigod powerhouse, he wouldn't be able to do anything to him. It could be said that he already had a foothold in the universe and didn't need to worry about encountering opponents that were too strong or encountering unpredictable dangers. Even if he were to enter the Abyss world now, he wouldn't encounter too much danger. Of course, accidents could always happen. After all, the Abyss was also the territory of the Abyss demons. If his identity as a human were to be exposed, one could imagine the dangers that he would encounter. No matter what, there was no one in the world who could be 100% sure. Beep beep, at this moment, the system's voice rang out. Congratulations, host. You have attracted the hatred of many angels of the angel race. This time, you have received a total of 300 hatred crystals. I hope you can continue to work hard. 300 hatred crystals. Hearing this, Xiaoping opened his eyes and was instantly overjoyed. Previously, he had 9,500 hatred crystals on him. Now that there were 300 more, it would be 9,800 hatred crystals. And this number wasn't far from 10,000 hatred crystals. I still need 200 hatred crystals. Xiaoping touched his chin. He felt that it was time for him to find a chance to obtain the remaining 200 hatred crystals. He didn't know what kind of reward he would receive from the system after obtaining 10,000 hatred crystals. He had always been looking forward to it. If he could get the system's reward, it would definitely increase his strength greatly. Of course, the price of obtaining these 300 hatred crystals wasn't small either. His actions this time had completely infuriated the angel race, causing the demigod powerhouses of the angel race to set up a trap to kill him. One could imagine how great the hatred of the angel race was. However, the angel race couldn't be blamed. This time, he had ruined their plan of billions of eras and killed many elites of the angel race. Any race would go crazy and wish that they could kill him. It was true that as long as he hid in the human camp, these demigod powerhouses wouldn't be able to kill him. However, it wasn't his style to always hide in the human camp. Moreover, one could only be a thief for 1,000 days. There is no such thing as guarding against thieves for 1,000 days. It seems that I have to enter the Abyss world this time. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. Originally, he was more or less hesitant about whether he should enter the Abyss world once, but after knowing this news, he felt that it was better to enter the Abyss world to avoid the limelight. As long as he hid in the Abyss world, no matter how powerful the angel race was, they wouldn't be able to find him. This time, the angel race would probably suffer a big loss. Moreover, he could also enter the Abyss world and continue to improve his cultivation. If he could advance to the archaic realm, then even if he faced a demigod powerhouse, he wouldn't need to worry too much. But no matter what, this was a plan to kill two birds with one stone. Chapter 27:14. Several days later, Xiaoping prepared everything and left the black-yellow city silently. He was not discovered by any sage. He moved forward according to the spatial coordinates of the Abyss token and found the spatial node to enter the Abyss world. He searched for 7 days and 7 nights. Finally, he found the location of the spatial node inside the Abyss token. In fact, this place was not very far from the black-yellow continent. It happened to be near the black-yellow continent, among the islands that were like stars. This spatial node was one of the uninhabited islands without any resources. If not for the guidance of the Abyss token, he probably would not have found this place. In fact, even if a sage passed by this place accidentally, due to the concealment of the Abyss formation, no sage would be able to detect that there was a dimensional passageway to the Abyss world. Is this the place? Xiaoping stood on this nameless island and used the golden crow's hell eyes to penetrate the void. He immediately saw a spatial node hidden in the depths of the dimensional void. The spatial node was covered by layers of abyssal restrictions. If it wasn't for the fact that he could see through the illusions with the golden crow's eyes of hell, he wouldn't have been able to find it. This spatial node was filled with densely packed abyssal restrictions. There is also a tyrannical abyss gate that suppressed the depths of space-time. Without the Abyss token, even an invincible sage would not be able to open this place. This place was probably one of the most important strongholds of the Abyss world. It was used at critical moments and had never been exposed. This might also be one of the backup plans left by the Abyss demons in the modern universe. Abyss token, open the Abyss gate in front of me. Thinking of this, Xiaoping did not hesitate. He immediately used the magic power in his body and instilled it into the Abyss token that he had completely refined. A huge amount of magic power was instilled in. Boom! In the next second, the Abyss token seemed to resonate with the Abyss gate of the space-time node. Suddenly, the Abyss gate appeared from the depths of space-time. Immediately, a deep, dark, and noble gate with countless abyssal runes carved on it appeared. It emitted a terrifying, all-devouring abyssal aura, as if it was eroding all life. Just standing in front of the Abyss gate made people feel as if they were about to suffocate. In fact, that gate was an extremely terrifying abyssal magic tool. If it wasn't for the person holding the abyssal token summoning it, it would have definitely been devoured by the abyssal gate and turned into food. In Xiaoping's eyes, he saw that this abyssal gate was a terrifying abyssal monster. Although it seemed to be motionless, it was actually a living creature. It was as if there were countless vengeful souls and an unfathomable aura of blood in the depths of its body. No one knew how many lives this abyssal monster had devoured. Who dares disturb my slumber? At this moment, the abyssal gate seemed to have awakened. A dark skeleton appeared from the depths of the abyssal gate. It emitted a twisted, bloody, cursed, and cold aura. It was as if it was the most evil thing in the world. Oh no, this door is actually alive? Xiaoping's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He immediately put on a non-phase mask and transformed into the appearance of the invincible realm demon. Although he didn't know what had happened for the time being, it was better not to reveal his true face at the moment, and transforming into this invincible realm demon was the best choice. After all, this abyssal token had originally belonged to this invincible realm demon. It's actually the Power Demon King. Long time no see. The abyssal demon gate opened its eyes and stared at Xiaoping. It seemed to have recalled Xiaoping's original identity as this demon. I thought you had disappeared for such a long time and had long died in the modern universe. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Its eyes looked at Xiaoping with interest, as if it didn't expect the demon that Xiaoping had disguised as to still be alive. After all, it had disappeared for a very long time and never opened the abyssal gate to return to the abyssal world. Many abyssal kings thought it was already dead. In reality, this invincible realm demon had long died in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm. However, it had entered quietly and wasn't discovered by anyone. Therefore, no one knew that a demigod-level demon had actually appeared in the Sound Pattern Mountain secret realm. Therefore, many abyssal kings only suspected that it was dead, but they weren't 100% sure. After all, some abyssal kings might have been trapped in some universe secret realm, or they might have been plotting something in secret and thus hidden for countless eras. Power Demon King. Hearing this, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the identity of this demigod-level demon that he had disguised as was not simple. It was actually called the Power Demon King. However, thinking about it carefully, it was very normal. Even in the abyssal world, invincible realm saints were absolute experts. Such existences were known as abyssal kings. System, may I know what demon is this? Xiaoping asked secretly. This is one of the most ancient existences in the abyssal world and one of the most powerful abyssal kings. Its name is Abyssal Demon Gate. It has thousands of clones, and its specific abilities are unknown. Its strength is unknown, and it is unfathomable. The system replied, Abyssal Demon Gate. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He didn't expect the abyssal world to have such a unique, ancient, and powerful existence. The abyssal world was indeed unfathomable. It seemed that even in the primordial age, the name of the Abyssal Demon Gate didn't appear. It seemed to be hidden in history, and only the demons of the abyssal world knew about it. Thinking about this, he said, Stop talking nonsense, and quickly opened the gate. I want to go back to the abyssal world. What a rude kid. If I didn't sign an alliance with you abyssal kings, I would have sent you to the end of the universe and sent you to the Forbidden Darkness Zone. The Abyssal Demon Gate glared at Xiaoping fiercely. It seemed to be so angry that even its beard was curling up. Forget it, forget it. I am a magnanimous person. I can't be bothered with a kid like you. Since you want to go in, then hurry up and scram. Don't appear in front of me again. Very soon, the abyssal demon gate yawned. It seemed like it didn't care about the personality of the Power Demon King. It was as if the Power Demon King was unreasonable and rude. Or perhaps it wasn't interested in anything in the first place. Rumble. In an instant, the abyssal demon gate opened. A deep and serene passage appeared. It seemed to be connected to the end of the abyss. There seemed to be a terrifying abyss aura coming from the depths of the passage. If it was an ordinary sage, even if it was an invincible sage, they would have a headache if they entered. It was a dangerous place. Even if they had the chance, they wouldn't be willing to enter. However, Xiaoping was different. The abyssal demon, Qi, couldn't do anything to him. Whoosh! In the next second, he stepped into the abyssal demon gate. Chapter 27:15. Interesting. The abyss demon gate sensed Xiaoping's aura disappearing into the abyss passageway, and his eyes lit up. What did the Power Demon King do after disappearing for such a long time? Is he plotting something, or did he just come out after being trapped in a dangerous place? It seems like the Power Demon King is different from before. To be honest, he was very curious about what happened to the Power Demon King. After all, he had disappeared for such a long time and didn't even return to the Abyss continent. This was very unusual. He had lived for so many years, and there weren't many things that interested him like this. But this kid has been dead for so long. He's long gone. The Abyss now isn't the Abyss of the primordial era. The situation is completely different from the past. Will this kid's appearance disrupt the current situation in the Abyss? Interesting. The Abyss Demon Gate smiled. He seemed to be thinking about what kind of earth-shattering changes the famous Power Demon King would bring to the Abyss world after returning to the Abyss. After all, many demons thought that the Power Demon King was dead. His subordinates and many forces had been divided by the other Abyss Kings. There was no longer a place for the Power Demon King in the Abyss world. But no matter what, the Power Demon King was the Abyss King. Just his strength alone wasn't to be underestimated. No matter which side he fell on, it would cause a huge commotion in the Abyss world. He could imagine what kind of interesting changes the Power Demon King would undergo after returning to the Abyss. Forget it. No matter what happened to him, he must have a motive for choosing to appear at such a crucial moment. I shall wait and see. The Abyss Demon Gate yawned. He wasn't anxious at all. Even in the primordial era, when the Abyss world was fighting against the myriad races, he didn't make a move. He just observed quietly, as if no matter what happened, it had nothing to do with him. He was just providing teleportation passageways for the demons to connect to different parts of the void. Hence, no sage knew of his name. He seemed to be hidden in the shadows of history. Boom! In the next second, he hid in the depths of space and time. His aura disappeared without a trace. In fact, the Abyss Demon Gate had thousands of clones. The reason why his soul woke up was because he sensed the aura of the Abyss King that hadn't appeared for a long time. If ordinary demons opened the Abyss Demon Gate, they wouldn't be able to alarm such an existence. However, after satisfying his curiosity, the Abyss Demon Gate went back to sleep. Just as Xiaoping passed through the Abyssal Demon Gate and disappeared into the spatial passage, some demigod-level angels suddenly stood up in the angel race's headquarters. Their eyes shone with a frightening light. What happened? A demigod angel could not help but frown. Why did the Fiend Saint's aura suddenly disappear? No matter how we try to capture it, we can't. It's as if the connection has been broken. It used a secret treasure of the Angel Clan in order to constantly monitor the aura of the Fiend Saint and grasp his whereabouts, hoping to find an opportunity to deal with the Fiend Saint. However, before it could find the opportunity, it realized that the connection between the aura of Saint Fengdu's body had been cut off. It was as if it had been cut off by an inexplicably powerful force. This also caused it to lose the clue that it could not find traces of the Fengdu Saint. Impossible. This is a secret treasure of my Angel Clan that has the law of karma tracking. How could it be so easily interrupted? Even a demigod expert wouldn't be able to do that. Another golden-haired angel said. There are only two possibilities. The first is that the Fengdu Saint sensed that our angel clan was tracking him. Therefore, he used some kind of unknown secret treasure to forcibly cut off the connection. A white-haired angel said in a deep voice. However, this possibility is not high. After all, such a treasure is even rarer and more precious than the secret treasure of our angel clan. It's impossible for a puny human clan saint to have it. The second possibility is that he suddenly entered a powerful universe mystic realm, such as a forbidden darkness zone. Such a place has powerful origin source laws of the universe. Even our race's secret treasure is unable to explore it. Therefore, we temporarily lost track of the Fengdu Saint. It said that there were two possibilities for this. Investigate. Immediately investigate if the Fengdu Saint has left the Xianwang city. See where he has been recently. I don't believe that there are no clues. One of the three-eyed angels shouted. After a while, the golden-haired angel's eyes flickered. He seemed to have contacted the angel clan's intelligence department and obtained a lot of information. He narrowed his eyes and said, "This won't do. There is no information about the Fengdu Saint leaving the Xianwang city. His confidentiality level in the human clan is too high. Our race's spies are unable to obtain any information about his whereabouts. However, it seems that our race is not the only one paying attention to the Fengdu Saint. There are also spies from the Demon Clan, the Insect Clan, the Elemental Clan, and other P clans who are also investigating this kid." It discovered that while the Angel Clan was tracking down the Fengdu Saint, other P clans were also investigating him. This is very normal. The Fengdu Saint is not well known. However, he has such earth-shattering strength the moment he appeared. It's normal for him to attract the attention of the other Peak clan's intelligence organizations. However, remember not to alert the enemy. The three-eyed angel nodded, indicating that it was nothing and that it was very normal. However, we have temporarily lost track of this kid. What should we do? Wouldn't our previous series of plans have to be scrapped? The golden-haired angel said gloomily, "What a damn human clan saint. He just left the Sound Patter Mountain mystic realm not long ago. He actually dared to run to other dangerous mystic realms. Isn't he afraid of death? He only knows how to court death all day." It clenched its fists. In its entire life, it had never seen a saint running around and courting death in some dangerous mystic realms. Which saint in the universe didn't always rest for a long period of time after venturing into a dangerous mystic realm before going on a second adventure? If one constantly courted death like this, they would die very quickly. There's no other way. Not everything can be as we expected. The Lord told us that fate is unpredictable. A white-robed angel held a scripture in his hand and was extremely pious. His body emitted the light of faith as though he was constantly bathing in the holy light and emitting an immortal aura. Don't worry. We have all the time in the world. We just have to wait. I don't believe that kid doesn't have any flaws. As long as we wait for an opportunity, that Fengdu Saint will die. The three-eyed angel was filled with killing intent. It was like a hungry wolf, bloodthirsty, cruel, and extremely calm. Unless it was a critical moment, it wouldn't give its prey a fatal blow. Yes, the other angels nodded. Chapter 27:16. The Abyss World. At this moment, Xiaoping passed through the abyssal demon gate. He felt as if he had passed through a deep abyssal channel, and he did not know how far he had flown. Boom! Suddenly, the void shook and space-time changed. Xiaoping immediately felt as if he had been teleported to another space, and his feet were standing on a piece of land. Is this the Abyss World? Xiaoping looked around and immediately discovered that he seemed to have appeared on the peak of a mountain. There seemed to be an ancient space-time gate behind him, and the ground was engraved with dense abyssal restrictions. It seemed as if this place was an important place to summon the abyssal demon gate. However, as far as his eyes could see, all he could see were barren, ancient mountains that stretched on endlessly. Under the perception of his divine sense, it seemed that everything within a radius of dozens of light years was in the barren mountains, without any signs of life. However, this abyss continent seemed to be completely different from the abyss continent that Xiaoping had entered before. This place was filled with densely packed, lush demonic trees. It seemed as if these plants had completely adapted to the abyss world. By devouring abyssal demonic aura and abyssal power, every tree was filled with rich vitality. This also made this abyss continent not so desolate, as if he was in a primeval forest. Such rich abyssal demonic aura. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. To be honest, as soon as he stepped into this space, he knew that the abyssal demonic aura here was more than 1,000,000,000 times stronger than the abyss continent that he had been to before. Strands of abyssal demonic aura almost condensed into a substance. It was as if any life form in the modern universe that stepped into this space and breathed in the air here would be instantly eroded and turned into abyssal creatures. Even invincible, Saint might not be able to last for too long. No wonder many saints fought their way into the abyss in the Archean era, but they did not stay for too long before retreating. The environment here is simply a place of extreme toxicity to the various races. Xiaoping suddenly came to a realization. To be honest, if he did not have the bloodline of the Golden Crow of Hell and could devour the abyssal demonic aura at any time, he might not have been able to withstand the erosion of the abyssal power here. To ordinary life forms, this place was filled with poisonous gas everywhere, and it was simply impossible to survive. Therefore, to the various races, even if they won the war against the abyss in the Archean era, the best way was to seal the entrance of the abyss into the modern universe. This reminded Xiaoping of his previous life on Earth. In the ancient dynasties, the Xiongnu of the grassland repeatedly invaded the Central Plains. Each time the Central Plains dynasty defeated the Xiongnu and even killed them. However, after recuperating for 100 years, these Xiongnu soldiers would make a comeback. They would bring great harm to the Central Plains countries at any time. There would be countless casualties, and every moment was a great threat. In the end, they could only build a city wall that spanned tens of thousands of miles to block the Xiongnu, but it was not very useful. Then they could say, actually, it was because the grasslands were too barren and desolate. There were weeds everywhere, and it was impossible to grow large amounts of food. The environment was also extremely harsh. Even if the kingdoms of the Central Plains occupied the grasslands, they would not be able to use them. They would not be able to occupy these territories, and their soldiers would not be able to stay in these places for long. Moreover, the grasslands were also very large, so it was impossible to exterminate these Xiongnu. Usually, these Xiongnu would hide in the depths of the grasslands, and when the soldiers of the Central Plains retreated, they would come out again after 100 years, reproduce, and stir up trouble again. This cycle continued. World, the Zhou. The god. The world. It was the same principle. The abyss world was like an ancient grassland, but it was even worse than a grassland. Other than the demons of the abyss, no living beings could survive here. It could be said that this place was the strongest barrier for the abyssal demons. Even if the demons from the abyss failed every time they conquered the modern universe, as long as they retreated back into the abyss and retained a certain amount of their fire, they could make a comeback after billions of years. They were simply invincible. Even if the myriad races of the universe used all sorts of methods to seal the space-time passageways, it was useless. As time passed, these seals would eventually collapse. This kind of power could not be sustained for long. At the same time, the abyss demons would also learn, and these sealing methods would be broken sooner or later. Therefore, the demons of the abyss had always been a great threat to the modern universe. It was almost a dead knot that could not be resolved. He felt that even if they blocked the attack of the abyssal demons this time, they would definitely attack again next time, and each time they would be stronger than the last. Looks like I have to think of a way to solve this once and for all. Xiaoping rubbed his chin, but he could not come up with a solution after thinking for a long time, so he gave up for the time being. After all, the saints of the myriad races must have thought of something similar over the years. Even they had no solution for the time being. So how could he find such a solution in a short time? But where exactly is this place? Is this already the place closest to the abyss? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and continued to observe the surroundings. To be honest, There was no doubt that the continent he was on was the one closest to the abyss. Otherwise, it would be impossible for there to be such a dense demonic aura. But he did not understand the abyss world at all, nor did he know where this place was. There are actually 49 dark suns in the sky. At that moment, he raised his head to look at the sky, and his pupils shrank. He immediately discovered that there were 49 black suns in the sky, and they were high up in the void. These 49 black suns emitted a faint light. Although it was weak, it brought boundless heat and rich vitality to this continent. They were distributed in every corner of this continent, like gods, unfathomable, and simply could not be looked at directly. It was as if one would be burned by a terrifying demonic power of the abyss just by looking at them. Without a doubt, these 49 bright sun demons were far more powerful than the bright sun demons that Xia Ping had seen before. They had all reached the invincible realm, Saint Realm, and their bodies emitted a terrifying aura and power. Of course, this terrifying power had already been restrained, and they seemed to be in a deep sleep. They would only truly wake up when it was time to hunt. 49 demigod bright sun demons. The power of the abyss is really terrifying. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. He had just entered the abyss, and he had already seen 49 demigod-level demons. He really had no idea how much terrifying power was hidden in the abyss. It was no wonder that the abyss alone was able to contend with the various races of the modern universe and almost annihilate all the living beings in the modern universe. He felt that he needed to familiarize himself with the environment here. Chapter 27:17. Boom! At this moment, some of the bright sun demons in the sky seemed to sense Xia Ping's gaze. They seemed to feel an inexplicable power that caused their bloodlines to throb. They seemed to sense the golden crow of hell's bloodline in Xia Ping's body. This bloodline power was extremely attractive to them, like a delicacy. Even if Xia Ping only revealed a sliver of his aura, it was enough to make them feel gluttonous, as though they had been starving for God knows how long. Oh no, I was a little careless just now. These bright sun demons seem to have sensed my aura. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. These bright sun demons that had reached the demigod level were extremely sensitive to auras. Moreover, his golden crow of hell bloodline seemed to come from the same source as the bright sun demons, and his bloodline was even superior to the bright sun demons. Therefore, to the bright sun demons, the golden crow of hell bloodline was the best tonic, an opportunity for them to improve further. Without a doubt, if he was devoured and killed by a bright sun demon, they would most likely inherit the golden crow of hell bloodline and become true golden crows of hell. Of course, they had to be able to withstand the power of the golden crow of hell bloodline. If they couldn't, they would die. Even so, in the eyes of these bright sun demons, Xia Ping might be Tripitaka. As long as they ate him, they could live forever and obtain endless benefits. Whoosh! Without another word, Xia Ping immediately retracted his aura and concealed himself completely to prevent the glorious sun demons from discovering his true location. He had entered the abyss world to scout for information, not to fight with these bright sun demons. Moreover, this was the territory of the abyss demons. If they really fought, it would be disadvantageous to him. However, this aura completely awakened the bright sun demons, causing them to wake up one by one. It was as though the demonic blood in their bodies was boiling, almost uncontrollable. What is this aura? How strange. Why did it suddenly trigger my predation cycle? I clearly just had a full meal. There seems to be a unique demon on this continent. Its flesh and blood are of great benefit to us. It might even help our cultivation advance. Advance? Could it be that the bloodline of that abyss demon is even more noble than us bright sun demons? Could it be that the abyss has given birth to a demon with the bloodline of a demon god? Where is this place? Where is that abyss demon? Let's catch and eat it. The bright sun demons seem to have awakened at this moment. In the depths of the void, countless evil thoughts intertwined with each other, as if causing a terrifying void storm. If a mortal sensed such a mental storm, they would probably have their soul torn apart in an instant and fall. Even an ordinary sage would be corroded by such evil spiritual energy and fall. but demons would not be able to advance. These glorious sun demons stood at the peak of the abyssal world. Even among the abyssal kings, they were supreme existences. It was almost impossible for them to advance any further. Demons' kings were basically abyss demons. Demons. Demons, demon, abyss, dragon demons. But now, an abyssal demon had appeared. As long as they could devour it, they would be able to advance further. Instantly, all of the luminous sun demons were alarmed. This was because if he took another step forward, he would evolve into a demon god. At that time, he would truly be the supreme ruler of the entire world and become the master of the deep abyss. To them, this was an opportunity to become a god. No bright sun demon could stop it. Their bloodlines were reminding them that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. They would not get it again if they missed it. Rumble, dark suns appeared in the sky. They seemed to open their eyes. Their pupils were like the eyes of the abyss. They burst with terrifying light. They were like black holes, swallowing everything in the world. To be honest, they had not completely woken up yet. They could only be considered to have woken up in a daze. But even so, these bright sun demons released terrifying auras that shook the void. Countless abyss demons were terrified. It was like they had encountered a natural disaster. These bright sun demons burst with terrifying power. Their consciousness power pierced through the void and enveloped every part of the abyss continent. They tried to find Xiaoping's specific location. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Streak after streak of terrifying dark light pierced through the void, blotting out the heavens and covering the earth. It seemed to have searched through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, covering every corner in an attempt to find that wisp of aura. The bright sun demons woke up, shaking the world. Such unscrupulous actions alarmed countless abyss demons. Even the abyss kings were alarmed. After all, they knew what was going on. Even the blind could see it. What's going on? What's going on? Why did these bright sun demons suddenly wake up? Now is not the time for them to wake up. What are those bastards trying to do? Are they trying to tear up the agreement between us abyss kings? An abyss king sensed this. He was both shocked and angry. Although the bright sun demons were one of the strongest abyss demons and the strongest combat power they were proud of, they were too uncontrollable. They were basically lunatics. If they were hungry, they would even kill their own people, regardless of friend or foe. These bright sun demons even captured countless abyss demons as food. They could be said to be at the top of the abyss continent. That was why countless abyss demons were terrified of them. Once the bright sun demons woke up and started their hunting cycle, there was no telling how many abyss demons would be eaten by them. So they were a double-edged sword. They could hurt others, but they could also hurt themselves. However, in order to invade the modern universe, they still needed the help of these bright sun demons. After all, if these bright sun demons went berserk, they would probably wipe out everything. Because of this, they signed an agreement with the bright sun demons. They promised to provide large amounts of food for the bright sun demons to devour when they were hungry. But in exchange, these bright sun demons could not kill indiscriminately. And the bright sun demons agreed. After all, if these abyss kings provided them with food, they could save a lot of hunting time. It was also beneficial to them. After signing the contract, both sides had been living peacefully together. Fortunately, these bright sun demons needed a long time to wake up. So these abyss demons did not go extinct. They could recuperate and coexist peacefully. But now that the bright sun demons had awakened earlier than the last hunting cycle, countless abyss demons were alarmed. They did not know what was happening. I'm not sure. There are too many bright sun demons awakening this time. 12, 20, 30. Damn it. How can so many bright sun demons awaken at the same time? This is unheard of. Another abyss king was shocked. Usually, awakening 3 bright sun demons at the same time was a big deal. Countless abyss demons would die. But now, dozens of bright sun demons were awakening at the same time. It was a disaster. Even the abyss king's expression was grave. This was no small matter. Chapter 27:18. Damn it. All 49 bright sun devils have awakened. They've gone completely insane. An abyss emperor seemed to have sensed something, and he was both shocked and enraged. These damned lunatics. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to completely destroy this continent? It's since the 49 demigod-level bright sun demons awakening at the same time. These bright sun demons exploded with terrifying power, causing the entire continent to tremble, as if it was about to collapse. The void in all directions was trembling. After all, this abyss continent was a base that they had prepared for a long time. If it were to be destroyed at this moment, who knew how great the loss would be? Especially now that they were about to attack the modern universe. If something happened to the base at this time, it would definitely be a huge blow to their strength. If something like that happened, then what the hell was the point of attacking the modern universe? They might as well stay in the abyss obediently. I told you long ago that these bright sun demons are lunatics. There's no way to reason with them. They might even stab us in the back at a crucial moment. We should have done our best to eliminate them back then, lest they drag us down. The other abyssal king gnashed his teeth. Shut up. If it was that easy to kill off these bright sun demons, we would have done it long ago. Why would we wait until now? That's right. The bright sun demon's power is not to be underestimated. Moreover, it has reached the demigod level. If it could be killed so easily, it wouldn't be the demons that stand at the top of the abyss. Cut the crap. Although these glorious sun demons are hard to control, their power is real. They will definitely be a powerful force for us to attack the modern universe. Let's endure it for now. It won't be long before we attack the modern universe. When the time comes, we won't be raising these hateful, glorious sun demons anymore. That's right. At the end of the day, they're just cannon fodder that we use to fight against the sages in the real universe. With them blocking the front, who knows how much damage we can save. To destroy the modern universe, the power of the bright sun demon is necessary. The thoughts of the abyssal kings appeared and intertwined with each other. They came to a consensus. Although they couldn't control the bright sun demon, the power of the bright sun demon was something they couldn't bear to part with. They were unwilling to give up on this sharp blade. But these glorious sun demons are out of control. How do we deal with them? The abyssal king said solemnly. Rumble. At this moment, the 49 bright sun demons were in a frenzy. They opened their eyes fearlessly and shot rays of dark light through the void in an attempt to find Xiaoping's traces. However, these ghostly lights were extremely terrifying. Wherever they went, the void was pierced. Those abyssal demons couldn't dodge in time and were instantly turned into dust, dying without a complete corpse. In just a few minutes, tens of millions of abyssal demons were killed or injured in the entire demon continent, and even the entire continent was pierced with terrifying big holes, and astonishing cracks appeared everywhere. Ayaya, looks like I've caused a huge problem this time. Looks like it's not a good time to leave. I'd better hide here for now. At this moment, Xiaoping, who was hidden in the depths of the void, was watching everything unfold. However, he was extremely relaxed right now. With the power of the formless mask, there was no way these glorious sun demons could detect his presence. He concealed himself completely and waited for the glorious sun devils to stop searching for him. If the abyssal monarchs knew how leisurely this instigator was, they would probably want to capture and kill him. There's no other way. We can only take action. We can't let these glorious sun devils continue to act recklessly. Otherwise, everything we've accumulated over billions of epochs will be destroyed at this moment. An abyssal monarch spoke. He can no longer bear to watch. Activate the seal and let these bright sun devils sleep for now. Another abyssal monarch also nodded in agreement. Glorious sun devils, stop immediately. Are you trying to break our alliance? At this moment, hundreds of abyssal monarchs appeared in the sky. They were densely distributed throughout the void, and they immediately surrounded the 49 demigod-level glorious sun devils. Shut up. This has nothing to do with you. Don't obstruct us. Demons who dare to obstruct us must all die. A glorious sun devil roared angrily, surging with murderous intent. Looks like there's no room for discussion. Let's do it. The abyssal monarch said indifferently. What are you trying to do? The glorious sun devil seemed to feel waves of murderous intent coming from the depths of the void. Rumble. In an instant, hundreds of abyssal monarchs attacked at the same time. They seemed to have activated the seal formation in the void, and a super formation appeared from the depths of the void, enveloping the entire abyssal continent. To be honest, they had prepared the seal formation for a very long time. The most important goal was to prevent these glorious sun devils from falling into a state of exhaustion. They never thought it would come in handy at this time. What? The 49 bright sun devils were astonished. They could sense that the depths of the void was covered with countless void restriction arrays that completely surrounded them. They seemed to have fallen into a world of darkness. They were surrounded by the omnipresent power of the void, as if they were imprisoned in a part of the void. You're courting death. How dare you imprison the great, glorious sun devils? We'll burn you to ashes. Who gave you the courage to do so? Die, all of you. The glorious sun devils roared, and terrifying, destructive ripples erupted from their bodies. It was as if the sun had exploded, and the destructive ripples destroyed the heavens and earth. Even many abyssal monarchs trembled. It was as if these ripples could easily destroy worlds and shatter the laws of worlds. They were practically invincible. Boom! However, at this moment, the seal formation instantly enveloped these glorious sun devils. It seemed to have turned into billions of abyssal runes, forming a formation that seeped into their souls. What? The glorious sun devils instantly discovered that their souls seemed to have been dragged into the darkness. They wanted to erupt with power, but they were unable to do so. They only felt that they were filled with endless sleepiness, and they couldn't resist it at all. Whoosh! In the next second, these glorious sun devils all fainted. They were also in a state where their flames were extinguished. Their originally violent auras disappeared without a trace, and they were like extinguished suns. They quietly floated in the air, unable to move. What a powerful seal formation! It can actually make these glorious sun devils fall into a deep sleep so easily. Many abyssal monarchs couldn't conceal the shock and disbelief in the depths of their hearts when they saw this. This was also their first time activating a seal formation like this.